That is what we're trying to do.
We are live.
Live.
Oh, heck yeah.
Hey-oh!
Holy shit, did you watch any of that? Right before I got on, I noticed that he had started another Gen Camp lost her case.
Yeah, I was listening to it. That was...
Like lost, or it just got thrown out entirely before even hearing the arguments because it's just crap?
No, this is one where she lost for defamation.
Oh, she was a defendant and lost.
Yeah.
Dude, I just can't stop thinking
Will
about
she learn?
No. Never. She might have already bankrupted her family.
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
And it's crazy. That case is crazy. Allegedly, this lady's so crazy she might try to sue us. She's nuts, man. She's nuts.
Yeah.
Though. This would be a good opportunity for the Midnight Mormons and them to show that they call balls and strikes, because they should come out and say that they noticed this lady's nuts, and that's complete defamation if they watched it all, but doubt they did. Yeah. She was just on a thing that during the discovery process, she thought she could tell the judge certain videos and texts were private. It's like, I didn't share that one because it's private. Like, what is this lady on about?
You're the one that started this lawsuit shit, you retard.
I can't believe she thought that she could just say certain things were private. And then she's caught lying all the time about saying that she didn't record a podcast, but she did record a podcast.
I know.
Yeah. All this stuff and that she deleted stuff, and they said stop deleting stuff. So she kept deleting stuff like oopsie doopsie doopsie poopsie.
My favorite part of her whole thing that she released recently, and I've heard her say this before, but she said it a lot in her last video, was that there were so many people there who the whole reason they listened to Mormon stories was because of me, and they commented about it. It's because of me, but John selectively deleted those ones and just kept the ones that were bad about me. I was like, lady, you're delusional. I have never, not a single time, seen a positive comment about you. You are the one thing that unites all ex-Mormons as just being cringe. Like, other than not believing in Mormonism, all ex-Mormons don't believe you. Like, that's the only other thing that we all agree on is that you're insane.
Yeah.
Yeah, so she took a tongue lashing from that judge. If you listen to that whole entire long, 4-hour one, and the guy was just basically like, "You don't know what you're doing. You don't know what you're in representing yourself. You keep having lawyers drop you." And she just still keeps going and then complains and thinks that she can cry. She thinks her tears count in court, although maybe that's been true more in the past 5 years or something. But
yeah, I mean, that's things like, because if you're a feminist, like, there's been a lot and that's happened in the last 10, 15 years to let you know that standards of evidence don't apply to women, like tears count as evidence for women, all this kind of stuff. Like, and then also, like, it's okay to lie if you're a victim. That's another thing that feminists have taught us, like, yeah. So she's really just a very good feminist. She's such a pure and radical feminist.
I don't understand. My tears always work on my husband. That's probably the problem.
That's one of those things, like, I don't know, like, because, like, ordinarily it's fun to speculate, but in this situation it just feels so sad because, like, I just feel that she's a domestic terrorist. I think her entire family lives on eggshells all the time.
I'm positive. That's just that.
Her husband was probably saying, no, let's do not fund this, or probably do the best he can. He probably doesn't dare to, like, stand up or try to stand up to anything. In case people don't know, my name's a little bit of a reference to it barely even kind of like links to it, but she says that she's a single parent when her husband's at work.
Yeah, and it's pretty hilarious because
I love that.
Her daughters are all teenagers. Like, I think the youngest daughter's like 16.
She's not even has young children.
Yeah, she's gonna have children. She said that, like, I'm a single mom during the work week, and he knew that, but he made me come in on a Friday anyway. Like, wait, you're mad that you're suing him because you had to come to
Yeah.
work?
Like your husband works, you're a homemaker, your children are at school, and you're a single mom. And he's like, I don't have enough time to do the $35 an hour paperwork and chip and drink snack buying job. Like it really is amazing. But because one thing though, I know for sure, one thing that I will give Jen Camp is that undoubtedly she does more emotional labor than all of us. For goddamn sure. Her emotional labor output is phenomenal. She's the Da Vinci of emotional labor.
I will say the one thing that I would kind of believe is that Dehlin probably makes weird sexual jokes.
Yeah.
Oh, well, yeah.
Well, we've seen him do it on TikTok.
No, I know he's like that because she said that he this just sounds very John Dehlin to me, that like there was some ex-Mormon singer that they were going to have on, and he showed her a music video, and in the music video it was about a blowjob basically, and he's like,
the music
like
video was,
or the song was, and
really?
the music video was, yeah, or something like that, and he said to her, "You like this music?" And she's like, "Oh, it's nice," and he goes, it's about oral sex." And I'm like, I believe that for sure. He seems like that guy that like thinks if he says just kidding, like he could be like, "Do you want to fuck?" I mean, I wouldn't. I'm kidding, obviously. I wouldn't cheat on my
You'd
wife.
say it more like a therapist. They're like, some people say it's you weren't really allowed to explore your sexual feelings when you were in a high demand religion, and now it's perfectly viable to express out loud what you feel like you would have wanted to do sexually, if that's something that you feel might be something you would like to share.
And as a PhD, how often do you flick the bean? Because you're allowed to do that now.
So I was going off on that a little bit at the start of this week. I noticed that like sometimes we have like enough topics by Sunday. We should have done one on Sunday, and then by Thursday we forgot like all the stuff we talked Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
That happens a lot. Yeah, no.
So I have an anti-ad read today.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
So today's episode of Porch Time is not brought to you by, but brought to you for Dabbler Farm. Comrades, do you tire of treading water in capitalist hellhole in which we find ourselves? Do your bones ache for unfulfillable promises of utopian frolicking in fields, sitting around fires, only working when you desire? Never. And body slamming into the communal fuck pile of unjealous polyamory, untainted by shackles of enforced monogamy, but perhaps a little bit tainted by the stench of male fupa. Well, comrades, I cannot promise you this beautiful commune, because you have yet to provide me with enough capital. And yes, is my name on bill of sale, but rest assured, comrades, we share. We also have wait list for those who want to join. Right now, we have 13 slam poets, 4 guitar buskers, 7 pottery novices, 2 trust fund TikTokers, and 1 female comedian. I had to write that one because the AI wouldn't.
Wouldn't let you make a joke.
It said you were a bigot.
Well, I went through several iterations of trying to get AI to write me an ad because I tried to do the Foucault one where I was like, write me an ad campaign in the style of Michel Foucault trying to arguing for abolishing the age of consent, and it was like, I'm not gonna do that. And I was like, that's fair. Now I'm on a list.
Yeah.
But then I asked it to write me an ad campaign from the perspective of Rage Against the Machine, arguing for mask mandates and vaccine mandates. But I told it to be snarky, and it kept just saying, it kept just being a vax ad. And it was like,
really?
It's called Rage Against the Machine, not Rage Against Your Immunity. I was like, no, you sound like fucking what's his face?
That's something
Not
the
Jon
U.S. Health
Stewart.
Department would have
I
tried.
know it sounds like Jon Stewart or whatever, but
Oh yeah. No, I know what you're talking about. That Jimmy
Yeah.
Fallon, the COVID rap that he did.
yeah, there was that
Oh,
too.
geez.
Colbert is who I was thinking of.
Oh,
then
I guess they all probably did something awful
yeah.
and cringe.
Then I tried to do this one, the Larson's Dabbler Farm one, and I kept emphasizing, no, it's a fat socialist, and please be very mean about how fat he is, and also
fatter.
and also
Computer,
mention how ironic it is that this socialist is begging for money for a property that he owns.
Yeah.
And it was like, I'm not going to be mean about him being fat. Shut up.
Oh man,
We're bad people.
yeah. We never once got up here pretending to be good ones.
Yeah. That's the only reason we haven't become a 501c3 is because we just know we're not good enough for that.
I wonder if is Dabbler Farms an LLC or a 501c or
I'm sure it is because he knows how to set them up. He's done it before. He's an old hat.
He literally is the one who helped Lynn figure out how to start doing that.
And Lindsay. He got Lindsay and Dehlin going on like the technical and legal side of shit.
Dabbler Farm for Intentional Community Directory.
Intentional community. The words are stupid.
That is a stupid way to.
I prefer unintentional community for sure.
Yeah.
I mean,
whoopsie doodle community.
A whoopsie doodle community. Find a community. What, he's got 81 of them around the world? Yeah, right. Is that real? Foundation for Intentional Community, or he's just one of the farms inside of this other thing called Foundation?
He probably got 81 people to give him $500 is what that means.
I think Dabbler Farm is inside of some other thing called Foundation for Intentional Community, FIC member, whatever that is.
So the Art of Floundering is asking, what the fuck is an intentional community? And just think of that meme that goes around the King of the Hill thing, where they're like, we're looking for, are you the people with the cult? They're like, no, we're a group that lives together and prays together. And yep, this is them. Yeah. It's like that, except for like, are you guys the communists?
No, is this the weird cult? No, we're an intentional community. Yeah, this is it.
Yeah.
Look, okay, I can hear.
Become a member of the Foundation for Intentional Community to get access to hundreds of community building resources and learning opportunities.
Is this his ad?
Years, our
no, it's the thing that he's registered
has served
with.
as the resource for the
he's registered with a nonprofit
movement.
Sociocracy.
Connect and empower all those who visit, join, grow, and learn from intentional communities. Membership is your key to unlocking community connections and expanding your community knowledge.
This is church.
By becoming a member, you'll gain access to and support the expansion of our educational programs. Here's a look at what you can get. Become a supporter member and receive.
Please do a side-by-side of a Scientology ad.
Our online
bookstore. No, this is so obviously church.
This seriously feels like a Scientology ad. Wait, is that a Matt Walsh video?
That's got to be like the next videos or something.
Oh, that's in here. Okay,
yeah,
I thought that was like.
Wait, that's my algorithm.
As well as a 20% discount.
Although I bet you the algorithm's like, what the fuck? Okay.
On community classified ads. Gain access to archive issues of Communities magazine from 1972 to 2019. And if you're dedicated to improving your communitarian skills and capacities, our learner membership is for you. You'll get everything a supporter does, plus access to our member library with hundreds of workshop and webinar recordings, as well as community policy examples, ebooks, guides, and templates. Plus, as a member, you can add your own resources to this co-created knowledge base.
You want to know what stands out to me about
Additionally, learner members.
So this is funny to me. What's standing out to me is the lack of diversity, right? Because they're putting a black person anywhere they can, but like the problem,
it's the same guy, sometimes in a mustache, sometimes in a dress.
But the problem is The problem is there's only
It's Kwaku, paid
yeah.
Kwaku.
Well, the problem is all these people are like trust fund suburban white kids, right? They're doing this kind of shit.
Yeah.
Receive unlimited access to our events program with workshops, webinars, and networking opportunities, as well as 20% off our online courses, including live and on-demand classes.
20% off how much? Like, how much do you think they are?
Yeah.
And email support from FIC staff, so we can help you.
I want to know
realize
because
your
I bet they end
community
in
vision.
99. I bet you anything they use the same capitalist tricks that the people they hate use.
Well,
29,
you invest in your
99.
community.
Did you hear like Dehlin pump Kara's podcast like 50 different times? I know he's joking around, but he kept saying like, "Go to Greece with her, or you're a bad person."
Yep.
Unitarian future, your membership supports us in growing the intentional communities movement worldwide. So let's support each other and grow together. Help build the intentional communities movement by joining us today.
Damn.
That music.
It looks a whole lot like the videos like James Lindsay and Lisa Logan have been following this stuff that's like Christ consciousness, which is the stuff that Oprah and different people push, actually ties into Alcoholic Anonymous. And it's all just as culty as this shit has ever been.
This seriously looks like something you would see playing in the lobby of like a Scientology visitor center.
I want to find out how much a class is.
I know, and I bet it ends in 99. I bet you.
Yeah.
I bet you 69.99.
$399.99. No way, 69. I bet you.
No, I was saying that's what I'll bet you. I'll bet you $69.99.
But what's the over under if we can find the
99 cents?
Classified ads?
Classified. Oh, you can find. You can meet communists.
Supporter $88 a year. Learner $222 a year.
It doesn't end in 99.
But how much are 501c3 nonprofit?
Troy, it's the United Order, but with less risk of salvation.
Dude, wait, did you see on the main page when you scroll down FIC courses and events, Cults Explained, an interview with Steve Hassan?
Yay! Didn't we just have something with Steve Hassan this week talking about the Unitarian Church came across as culty? Wasn't Jonathan showing us something about that?
I think so. Yeah, I don't know.
The Unitarians kicked out a guy, but was it actually Steve Hassan saying that, or was it just somebody else using the Hassan method?
Yeah.
I want to know how much a class is. BIPOC IC Council. Yeah.
See, I told you, if they had more black people around, they would put way more of them in that ad.
Come on. What? BIPOC Intentional Community Council.
How many of these kids in this picture do you think of like would go to Aspen for a whole winter and just ski? We're going to the vacation home. Quite posh.
We can donate to it. Directory.
Of course you can donate.
Blue. Oh, man. It's getting boring to research as it is. Emergent Phoenix.
I don't think you're showing the thing you think you're showing. We're still stuck on the membership page. There we go.
It's just a directory of, look, I'm in this BIPOC Intentional Community Council. Our mission is to cultivate radically safe and inclusive communities for Black, Indigenous, and people of color by providing inspiration, solidarity, and support to those seeking to find or found communities, and to those already living in community.
At what point do you think they'll just drop the whole BIPOC bullshit and just say what they mean, not white?
Never. They'll find a new euphemism, but it won't be not white.
No, I know they won't. It's just it's hilarious that's what it means. That's what I think. Every time there's like a new stripe or whatever added to the pride flag, they just get closer and closer and closer to what they really mean. It's like no straight white men.
I've seen some things where they've already tried to hide DEI into stuff as IED, just rotating around, but make
Yeah,
it so you
yeah.
can't search for it.
Wow.
Yeah. I don't know. I titled this our what is it? Our fraudulent pyramid scheme must be run by women and be more inclusive.
That sounds like a South Park quote.
Yeah,
But
no,
it
I
looks
laughed.
like-
When I saw it pop up, and I really laughed. That was fraudulent
But here-
pyramid should be run
These
by
guys
women.
are doing it right. Their fraudulent pyramid scheme really already started from the ground up by
Wait, there's
being
the-
inclusive.
Chat is saying radically safe. Did it say radically safe?
Yeah, it says it right
Yeah,
here.
no, I saw that.
What is it?
That caught my attention too. Like, what the hell does that mean?
Radically safe.
It's radically safe.
How do you be radically safe?
No white
It's
people.
so sweet, man.
God,
No
that's
white
awesome.
people. Yeah, so Dehlin did another Thoughts on God podcast.
Larson,
I mean, Larson.
I'm not gonna spend, yeah, Larson. I'm getting them all mixed up these days, but I don't know that I want to spend that long on it or anything. It actually kind of goes in line with what Troy and Jonathan were talking about. Only it's like he's learning that stuff slower and in his own way, and then not really being able to hold up to what he claims to understand of it, because he claims to be just understanding religion from a standoffish, review.
He's the neutral observer.
He's the neutral observer. Yeah, right. And he started talking about stuff about, he says, I've noticed religious people don't seem to believe their own religion.
Whoa.
We've all noticed that, Larson, and we've been noticing that about commies too, and communal people and people. But that's been a long time thing that we've been on about. But so what does he say? Like, nobody ever takes him up on this of saying that I gotta pull. Okay, I do have to pull some things from there. There's no way. So he starts saying that professors speak in gobbledygook to make people think that they're smart. And then we go, you don't say. I swear we've been talking about this stuff for several years here, but he's not talking about the gobbledygook that we're talking about, obviously. But hold on. Ah, man. You linked it earlier, right? Oh, there it is. I'll find it. Hold on.
Yeah. So here's a music question. Does it bother you as much as it bothers me when somebody has to fit a word in by emphasizing the wrong syllable of the word?
Yeah. When you move the strap.
Oh, singing? Totally.
Yeah, like if you're singing and instead of saying temple, you say temple.
Yeah, it drives me nuts.
I hate that shit so much. And I anytime I bring it up, people are like, yeah, it's not that big of a deal. But I'm like, I don't know, man. It bugs me. The reason I ask is because I listen to what might be culture's worst yet.
Oh, especially when it comes to Weird Al stuff. That's why people can't be Weird Al, because Weird Al, I guarantee you he spends forever on his lyrics, because you could just make the dumbest like little rhymes of stuff that fits, but to like have stuff really kind of almost match syllabolically like Weird Al does, that's not like a skill of just like, hey, these words are kind of funny and kind of fit.
I know.
No, he's the real craft. It's real craft the way he does it.
Yeah, almost everybody else is kind of like when you hear the guys on Whose Line It Is Anyway do it live. And it's like, sort of funny, but almost kind of never that funny when sitting there thinking of it on the spot or something.
I mean, like, I think if Weird Al hadn't been a nerd, he would have been a rapper.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny because this dumb cult thing that he did, it was seriously, I love to see the temple spire. And I was like, okay, is he going to make like a dick joke about like the spire or something?
No, you've heard about the stuff going on with that? Have you heard the stuff about going on with that? So
no.
Rebecca Biblioteca has been following that there's a bunch of temples. There's one in Craigs Road down in Las Vegas and one in Texas somewhere that they're fighting the communities about the size and the height of the steeple. And the people, the communities.
I guess I know why he's singing about it, but he basically sings "I love to see the temple," but adds the word "I love to see the temple spire," and like that's
just
it.
yeah, no, it's literally shoehorned in.
Yeah,
Is like that. It's just smashed in there. It's like, okay, well, that's not art anymore.
his mind is just a crazy place.
It's a wild and
These
crazy.
ideas, they just
We're
never
two wild and crazy guys. Whoa, 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 whoa.
That is so funny. I'm just so
Twa.
crazy.
Do you remember on South Park the guy? Who was it?
Twa.
The magician. Twa.
That's the talk.
Twa.
The David Blaine.
David
We like to
Blaine.
have fun here. I was
Yeah,
thinking
that's that one. We like to
Yeah.
have fun here. Yeah, my mind's wild. Yeah, that I think that whole Temple Spire thing's stupid, maybe on both sides, because I mean the Mormons are obviously acting like it's a great big deal that they suddenly have the height of the temple stuff, and they're fighting with the community about that. But Rebecca Biblioteca is acting like they're just the worst
they don't
community.
respect the community.
They don't respect the community. They're just the worst bullies ever because they do want their place to be a little bit high. And I think in both cases, both of them are just kind of being a bit petty about stupid shit. And I guess who wins about stupid shit will decide what stupid thing goes up or doesn't go up. That doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Like none of it matters. And nobody's like some horrible, terrible neighbor victim there. It's petty squabbles. It's petty neighbor squabbles. Let's see here. So listen to this.
Why does scripture work? Why do people actually believe this stuff? Number one is the really smart professor theory.
Oh my god! Wait! You gotta pause it for a sec. You gotta look at the picture that was just sent in the chat.
Did we just get
We got the picture I asked for.
Oh no!
There is a phenomenon in higher education that there are professors
hold on.
who are really
Oh god!
Computer.
I was just talking about John Candy last week. It was real sad that John Candy.
There's no way he doesn't put mouth breather in every single one of these prompts, right? Has AI just learned enough about fat socialists to know that they always have their mouth agape like that?
Just to make sure everybody knows, like, we're not making fun of him just because he's fat, because I'm fat. It's because if you're fat and a communist lecturing other people about how to grow food and run a society, like that's
and sustainable.
If you want to talk about a sustainable society while you're overweight, like, we're gonna make fun of you for that.
But that's just the same things. He says through this. I mean, I guess I could pull up the clip because we're looking at it. That the religious don't believe their own religion, and that's our point, John. Is you don't believe your own religion. We don't believe that you believe it. Well, you moved to Oregon, zippity doo. It's actually a business venture and a business venture that dodges taxes. That supposedly we're supposed to pay into those taxes to make life better for everybody else or something like that. I don't know what.
He is like
bomb Gaza and
he's become like the perfect caricature. Like, he is unintentionally the total caricature of an evil capitalist. If he's like, oh, I'm going to hide what I'm doing and pretend like, no, I'm actually helping. Like, it's okay that I am doing it because I am actually better than these rubes. Like,
which is what the entirety of that whole neoliberal sphere that drives me crazy. The John Kerry thing, who can fly around the world, and Greta Thunberg and all that sorts of stuff, and they have all these what's good enough what's good for thee, not good for me type stuff. Like they're all flying first class, whatever, all over the world, but then telling us that we need to watch how much water I leave on at night or something like that. It's so ridiculous.
We're supposed to shower for 30 seconds.
Yeah.
And they will fly a jet to tell people to eat the bugs and shower for 30 seconds.
But we get lectured.
I'd love to hear John Larson tell somebody to shower for 30 seconds because the surface area of his body couldn't be covered in water in 30 seconds.
But it's just something you also know. We get lectured about sustainability and all that sort of stuff, and lectured about what we're doing with our lives down here in Salt Lake, where we're probably risking ourselves. But you already know that just the carbon output that he's done moving off here to do this and get the money for it. Like, I promise you that you emit more carbon than I do, John Larson.
Yeah.
And I eat the meat. I eat the meat and live in just like a normal house and don't really recycle that hard. And I guarantee you carbonize worse than I do. But that was kind of one of the weird things about this week. Did you guys follow the solar storm at all?
A bit. I guess I'm kind of sad I didn't go out and find the lights, because
I don't think they're really out. I was out with my dog every night. I didn't see them. But
I think if you went up into the hills, apparently, because people got pictures of them, it sounded like. I don't know.
maybe you had to get out of the light pollution or something.
Yeah,
But that solar storm was dangerous. I don't know if people realize it was dangerous as crap. Like, it ran a risk of being kind of like an EMP that fried all
Yeah,
that stuff.
no, the Carrington event.
Yeah.
That's something
And-
that Skeptics Guide was talking about forever. Is that like this is a thing that that will happen someday? Basically, it's just one of those things like.
Yeah.
Because the sun farts out huge amounts of ionized radiation or whatever the fuck it is, and it just has to aim one at us. Like, it's just a matter of us.
And we
being
would
the
be
best.
screwed. If it hits, we would be screwed. Brett Weinstein's been on about, like, it wouldn't be that hard if we just all got together and made enough backup, like, around the world to immediately replace the stuff if it happened. But we're so not ready for that if it just suddenly happened, we would be in deep shit. And but part of the thing with that whole sun thing that a lot of the other kind of climate skeptics and stuff have been talking about is they've been saying that the Earth's magnetic field and the sun is way larger of an impact of what's happening on the different climate things in our world. And there's far more evidence for it. But these guys don't want to look at it. They want me to worry about how much carbon I'm putting out, which is less than you. Not only that, I don't have kids. I've already beat the carbon game. But that's kind of what you guys wanted us to do, you antinatalists, right? Like, the only way to really get rid of the carbon is to get rid of the population. We know that that's part of the truth, but it's just, you don't live your religion. It's just not true. And there's no way that you're carrying around that much excess weight and being that careful with your
Consumption.
sustainable choices. Yeah, consumption. No way. No chance.
Really bad communicators. They're just not good at teaching at all. And they will, in the study, it talked about them being ranked really low by their peers because they have very poor communication skills. But students tend to rank them higher because students give professors a deference. That if the professor is up there, and if you think hard about this, dear listener, you'll probably find times in your life when you've done this. The professor is up there going on and you are lost. You do not understand what she is saying at all. You are likely to
Did you notice I said
attribute
she?
that to the professor being smarter than you. So when you read scriptures and you don't understand them, that they're written in archaic language or they're written in strange grammatical structures or they're using words you've never encountered, you are more likely to assume that it's you're the problem. And in my really smart professor study, it wasn't the case that professors could get higher ratings by just being poor communicators. It didn't portend to any kind of actually added intelligence. So my number one in the list of 5 theory of scriptures is when we read them and they're poorly written and they're confusing, we tend to think, oh my God, there must be something really special going on here.
Guess where we've pointed that out, Don Mars. What we've been on about for years is these professors spouting gobbledygook that is taken as science or absolute truth. The phenomenology of Judith Butler and the horse shit that lady says. I mean, we've got a backlog of them talking about this stuff. But we've been talking about this, Larson. You just only see it on one side. So one of the things I noticed is he's talking about 5 reasons why he thinks the scriptures catch on and hit with people. And just to not get through them, because it's like what most of the rest of the stuff he says, it's like a shower thought thing. So it's like if you're not really listening to something and not really paying attention, but like you get different good ideas while you're in the shower. That's what reading scriptures like is. So because your mind's kind of somewhere else, like in the same way that you're in the shower, you get other thoughts. You suddenly get thoughts while you're reading scripture. So that's why people think scripture is good. Then he says he's trying to parse out, when you're trying to parse something out complicated, it leads to deep thoughts. So that's 3 of them. The fourth is the repetition of it all breeds familiarity. And then the fifth of all is the stop clock's right twice a day. This is the little list he made. But if I look at this list, it's just all the stuff we've been talking about from Vervaeke and Peterson. It's pragmatic, and then there's stuff with the 4 Ps of Vervaeke. That stuff's not just propositionally true. It's a procedure. It's what are the 4 Ps? A procedure, a performance, I should look them up.
I don't remember this.
You don't remember this? You weren't on the, or I don't know if either of you were on the Vervaeke teams.
I didn't know. Yeah, I don't know too much about him.
So one of the things, and this is one of the things that Peterson's on, if you listen to that Pints of Aquinas, did you guys listen to that this week?
No, I didn't.
No, I heard you guys. I watched you guys talking about it, but I didn't actually watch it.
So Peterson was on. He was on peak Peterson going on that one. I've got a little clip of it because it's funny, but he was just going off. But the thing is, like, he does the thing again where he kind of won't do what's propositionally true. But this all kind of borrows from Vervaeke, who talks about like the 4 Ps of knowledge, and his 4 Ps of knowledge are what's propositional knowledge, what's procedural knowledge, what's perspective knowledge, and what's participatory knowledge. And so that whole thing is talking about why religion works, which is one of the things that we see Troy and Jonathan talking about today. Like the game theory of it is what they talked about this week. Last week was, the faith acronym, but I don't know if like adding over the evolution of it. But one of the things Vervaeke's talking about is why these things work. Troy was pointing to Dan Dennett, kind of deep diving into why they work too, is it's not just a propositional truth. A propositional truth is just this thing's true and it's not true. It's got procedures to it. It's got perspectives, like some of the perspective stuff you can say is just the simple fact that somebody's up on a stage preaching and everybody else is down in the crowd, which you've heard Peterson talk about, that sort of deal. Like there's something to that, to humans, to be in like that theater atmosphere that is a different type of knowing and being and doing than just a proposition, if that makes sense, right? And then it's participatory. So it's those 4 Ps is the stuff that Larson is basically just kind of getting to in his own, but he labeled it out different. He says a professor sounds like smart gobbledygook, but the reason scriptures seem to work is because it's a shower thought, something will come to you, something like that. So like you're doing something else and then a thought will come to you. So it's procedural. It's a participation that you're doing a thing. You're trying to phase out complicated leads, and that leads to giving you other deep thoughts. So his whole thing is talking about like, why does this gobbledygook scripture seem to work for people, right? And he's just basically landed on what Vervaeke and Peterson have been talking about, that there's all these added things besides just the proposition. Am I making sense?
Yeah.
So it's like
yeah.
Troy and Jonathan have been on about that today. Liturgy, as Risto calls it. Yeah. And it's one of the reasons, like I look at that Vanderclay channel, because we were talking with Marty and it came up going back to RFM this past weekend. If you listen to Marty's channel, Where Will You Go? She had on RFM this week, and she asked RFM some questions about things about the Mormon church, and she brought up those 4 Ps to him. And I realized that he didn't understand what she was talking about. She was talking to RFM about maybe there's more to it than just the proposition of the thing. There's all the performance of it. There's all the action of it. There's all like having a temple and a ritual of the temple. And this is some of the stuff that Dan Dennett has gotten to a whole lot right before he passed away. And Troy was bringing it up just today on Jonathan's podcast. And when Marty brought it up to RFM, it just flew over his head. He didn't know what she was talking about. And he just basically went, no, the church is crap. It's big lies. They lie. And we were talking about how he just didn't even notice that. Then we also talked about how she asked him about off-ramps, like giving them off-ramps. And that just flew over his head too. He didn't know what she was talking about, giving them off-ramps, which off-ramps we've kind of joked about is kind of like maybe the idea of letting people gaslight you just as long as they're right now. Does that make sense? Like,
yeah.
if you guys will get off this thing about I don't know what. Just think of any given thing out there floating out there. That there's such thing as trans kids. So there's something that Larson says in this, because I'm just kind of constantly picking out contradictions. He says in this that it's a Western way of thinking to think that there's a dualism. And what he's talking about there is in philosophy, there's always these two different arguing peoples of like, is everything a monism or is everything a dualism? And dualism is kind of just like the dualism of spirit body type stuff. Or is there a mind brain? Is there a dualism or is it just one thing? Is it just brain? And he says it's only Western philosophy that does that dualism. It's only Platonism and the imagery of Platonism do that stuff. But that's a contradiction, because one of the things we've always pointed at is there's no way trans ideology is a monism. You know, trans ideology is a dualism.
Higher power. I mean, like the mind-body dualism of the West has been proven false over it.
This is a person who believes trans ideology.
Man, that's really stunning. That's remarkable.
Yeah.
Like, jeez.
And we just saw at the beginning of this week, maybe I could pull it up, but Robert Sapolsky, who's the guy who's, I guess, the hero now about free will and all that stuff, was saying that neurobiological tests have shown that people who are trans, when they have their penis removed, do not have phantom pains in the penis, whereas people who lost their penis who aren't trans do have phantom pains. And it's a lie.
That's such like a granola level.
I saw some people in the comments say there could be truth to it in the sense of they're plowing themselves with estrogen, and if you're plowing yourself with that, you don't get aroused, and if you don't get aroused, you don't expect an erection, and so then you don't have a phantom pain. But that there's a reason for that, right? It's not because there's a dualism that you are actually a female and that penis was there errantly, like but I mean, there's Larson just saying right out there that he thinks that it's obviously false. Anyway, kind of just one of the things that I'm pointing at with this sort of stuff is that like Larson and Dehlin are always talking about how all the Mormons and all those people are behind. They're just behind on stuff, and it's like they're behind on figuring out the evolutionary view of what religion is and isn't, what we've been talking about forever. And Troy and Jonathan are going over, and Marty was trying to talk about, and Dehlin and Larson are like, I guess there's some stuff that, you know, we can let them have it, sort of. I mean, it's just how people are, but that's because there's no free will. Like, they're getting to it, but they're getting to it slowly and wrongly. You know?
It's kind of, so you're asking for examples. It's sort of like, I have a hard time not getting angry at somebody for being right for a really stupid reason, you know, like and especially if they were like, I always believed the right thing. That's what you're talking about when you're saying the whole, like, let them gaslight you thing, because it's like, there's a bunch of people after this whole October 7th attack that suddenly realized that we shouldn't speak in these identity politics ways that we have been, and disparage a race based on their success or whatever, and pretend that they're oppressing the rest of the races. And the only reason they realize it is because now it was happening to the Jews instead of just white people. And I wanted to, oh man, it's hard not to be spiteful and be like, how the fuck did it take you that to realize that it's bad to say all white people are racist? You didn't realize that was wrong, but now you realize saying that all Jews are racist. Oh, that's wrong. So, and I'm
just catching up.
And we always believed it, you know. And there's gonna be, that's the thing with the trans stuff. I feel like it's coming to a peak, and the trans stuff is gonna hopefully start dying down a little bit, at least like the social constructivist parts of it, and the transing the kids stuff, especially with this Tavistock shit going down. And I'm so excited to see all of the people be like, yeah, I always knew that was bullshit.
Yeah, no, I was always a skeptic. I
have a clip on that because Barry Weiss had an interview. Her wife just released a book, and Barry Weiss is that lady who left the New York Times for how like ideological it got there, and just releasing the book right now. She was talking about how they're set to start gaslighting. I've got a clip of it. Go ahead and. Ooh.
They've already got it. They've got it in the.
I've got it. Boom! I've already got it. Hold on.
No, but I mean,
Wow,
like she's saying, they're already set up to.
Yeah, as predicted, epic gaslighting on cue. You ain't seen nothing yet.
Or this Robin DiAngelo training, or no, I think people will hear this conversation and we'll be talking about Chaz or Portland or this Robin DiAngelo training or how algebra's racist and think, okay, all absurd. But are you just not thinking here? Are you just picking up on the most absurd excesses of the American left and claiming that it's something bigger than it is? What would you say to the person who asked that?
I would say that that person is being willfully naive. I would say that to pretend like Robin DiAngelo wasn't an enormously influential figure, that the list of white supremacy characteristics wasn't enormously influential, even though you had the Smithsonian Museum making a poster of it, to pretend like the policies around homelessness and drugs were some fringe, silly thing, when the entire American West follows these, to pretend like this was silly sideshows, is to lie. And maybe you want to lie now. Maybe you're embarrassed about it. Maybe you want to say, no one ever argued that prepubescent children should be able to start hormones to block their puberty and then hormones to transition before they turn 18. No one ever said that, you might want to say. No one ever said abolish the police. You might want to. I know. I'm aware. But it happened.
And you were there.
Yeah. And I was there. And people did argue to abolish the police. And people did argue that toddlers know their true gender and that 15 years old is fine to begin cross-sex hormones. People did argue that accelerated math is racist. They still argue that. I mean, the memory holding that we're seeing, or the attempt to pretend like these arguments are more rational than they are, I don't blame people. I probably would too.
Yeah, but I mean that's always the concept that we've said forever, though, is because like there's part of me that just wants to be like, well, if you guys are gonna get off of this, I don't want to hold you to the position so that you double down on it.
I know. That's
Yeah.
That's I think that every time I see somebody doing this shit, I think that whole just let him gaslight you, let him have this because you don't want to talk him out of the rational position. I had this with a guy at work. We were talking about I mentioned some shit they taught at school, and I was like, yeah, that's some CRT bullshit. And he's like, CRT is a legal theory. It's not being taught. I'm like, okay, buddy, let's talk. And and it's a right-wing boogeyman. I was like, okay, Dan McClellan, let's talk about this for a second. Because if I am your kid's homeroom teacher and I teach him that the doctrine of turn the other cheek, anytime somebody hurts you, you got to turn the other cheek and let them slap the other cheek. Are you going to get mad and say you're not allowed to teach Christianity in the class? And he's like, well, yeah. And I was like, okay, well, me too. I'm going to say don't teach Christianity in the class. But this guy's going to turn to you and say, look, buddy, Christianity is a theology. This isn't Christianity. Christianity isn't turn the other cheek. Yeah, but turn the other cheek is part of Christianity. And teaching that white people are unable to be racist, or that black people are unable to be racist, and all white people contribute to and benefit from white supremacy, is part of CRT. They might not be teaching all of CRT legal theory, but they're obviously teaching elements of it. So if I say don't teach Christianity in school because you're telling my kid to turn the other cheek, and if I say don't teach CRT in school because you're telling my kid that he's racist by virtue of being white, then both of those stand. Okay, those are elements of those things, and I get very tired of the pretending.
I mean, there was such a gaslighting with that, because they'd say that legal thing, and then you'd say, well, look, here in the schools there is DiAngelo and there is Kendi, and they'd say DiAngelo's critical whiteness studies, and Kendi is, they used another term for Kendi, I forget what it was.
Critical race studies.
Yes, critical race studies. They literally did that, and they acted like they were two different things. That would be their answer to it. But
Yeah,
then,
like you're so stupid, you don't even know they're different.
but then there was this thing where Christopher Rufo said it's just going to be easier for us to group all those things under the term critical race theory because it's just easier to put it that way because it will be it. We don't need people learning all these like little different sectional things. And they started spreading that around the internet, like Christopher Rufo admits that he's lying about this stuff, that they're all different, it's not good. But then you could pull an exact quote from Kimberly Crenshaw, where she multiple times said that exact thing, that we can just use critical race theory as the umbrella for all these different terms. And that's the way Marxists lie.
Also, how could you possibly classify what D'Angelo does and what Kendi does as separate studies?
Yeah, they're just
They
liars.
say the same
Like,
fucking
where
thing.
where do they conflict? Where are the places where they are incompatible with each
Not
other?
only that, they reference very hard. Like if you read through Kendi's book, he references the critical race scholars all the way through it and says he's jumping off of them, and so does D'Angelo. But that's just the way they lie. That's the ways they lie endlessly. And then if you're somebody who's just like kind of a random normie trying to argue it online, you don't know like all this backstory of the way that they procedurally went through the lies and stuff over time. So there's so much stuff like that. Like you have to track the record and the history of every single argument and lie all the way through. This is funny. This was Peterson on Pints of Aquinas. Ashley St. Clair says, "Babe, please don't get political at dinner with my parents." It says, "Me 3 drinks in at dinner." And here's
And you think, well, there's no such thing as hell. It's like, have it your way, buddy. Can't you just, call the poor victims what they want? It's a byproduct of neural activity. It's why isn't your solar plexus conscious then? You can't have a wood burning fireplace. It's like, so these bloody nature worshippers, oh my, everything's coming to an end. We have to act like there's an emergency. We have to lock everything down. We have to take everything from everyone. Why? So I can be seen to be the savior of the planet. You have to use pronouns. It's like, fuck you, buddy. Seriously. And you think, well,
one of the funny things, I mean, that kind of shows it in there. That podcast, since it's Catholic, it would bleep out when he used the Lord's name in vain.
Yeah, and then he
but
says,
it did
fuck.
not bleep out the F words. Yeah.
That was funny. So Peterson he's out of his junkie arc, and now he's in his angry old man arc.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it was like he had just some of those moments kind of like that there. I know Forrest thought that Peterson was off his rocker on that one, but I thought it was pretty kind of classic Peterson. But one of the things that he was doing again is he wouldn't go for that propositional statement of, I believe God is there and real and this exact thing like that, because he'd focus on those other reasons for you to do stuff. It's almost kind of like the answer to Larson. Larson says, none of you guys actually believe the stuff you say you believe. And Peterson says, I don't say it, I do it. I won't say it, but I'll do it. So I'm the opposite of that. Maybe I'll pull it up from Larson. The stuff they say.
Risto, do we think Peterson believes in God as a personal and propositional being? It's impossible to tell.
Yeah,
Like we just talked about. Yeah, like I mean, but part of the problem is like because his answer is that big, long 40-minute thing about what does it mean to believe, So it's like I don't know.
But that's what I'm saying is like he's always like dip into the Vervaeke thing. That's like where he says in it, it's like asking the propositional truth just one aspect of the whole entire thing. That's like asking like what does a color smell like or something like that. And what he's getting at is that he thinks that. So here's Larson arguing about what religious people are like.
Long time. I believe that religious people don't actually believe their own religion. I believe that religion more gives people an identity and a framework. What I mean by identity, it makes you when you.
So he's saying that. So and then Peterson, that Pints thing mentions multiple times that like everybody, like lots of religious people cry, Lord, Lord, and say they believe a thing and don't believe another thing, but then they do a whole entire other thing. And so Peterson's always kind of trying to make the point that it's more about those other P's, the procedural, participatory, how you act. It's it's what you do in the world. It doesn't matter so much what you say you think you believe.
It's
And
interesting in that sense.
always trying to make that point.
Because Peterson and Larson are like, it's funny that they're on the exact same page about that. Because I remember, it was more than 10 years ago when John Larson was on the question of does God exist. John Larson said the thing that like struck me and that I've taken on, like it's where I am now, is that the answer is it doesn't matter. Like nothing about your life changes whether or not the question of God is propositionally true. But it's fascinating that they go completely opposite directions with it from there. Because like they start from that exact same place. Is that like, religion is a framework to help structure how people act. Yep,
Exactly. Yeah.
But they both say that, and then they end up going in dead
And it's
opposite
basically what
directions.
Troy and Jonathan are saying right now too. And it's what Vervaeke says too. But Vervaeke's more of a Platonic. He's a Platonic atheist. I'd say Peterson's Platonic too. I have argued with Forrest that I think he's a Platonic theist. Like I believe that he believes there's a Platonic God out there, and it kind of seems to be touched upon or mimicked by the Christian understanding of the world. So he thinks the Christian. This is my view of Peterson. He thinks the Christian story is stories passed through the ages of Christians trying to touch on what the Platonic God is. That's what I think Peterson thinks. Let's see here.
Those who say, Lord, Lord, will enter the kingdom of heaven.
Yeah.
Well, that's for sure.
Yeah.
What? It's the religious doctrine is not scientific theory. It's not something you believe like you believe a description of a set of facts.
Okay.
It's a mode of being. It's a mode of apprehension. It's a mode of perception.
But the guy who's kind of like a little bit in disagreement or not quite understanding is this Catholic guy sitting right there. He's like, but don't I just say God's there? What?
Well, but I mean, like, because this
So
is the
I'm
thing I've said
accustomed-
before. Oh, go ahead.
Well, I'm accustomed to getting annoyed when Peterson talks about the whole God thing because I'm always like, you know what they're talking about, right? Like they mean, is there a person that is God, or a do I experience things after I die? That's what they're talking about. But then I'll listen to stuff like this, and I'll actually kind of appreciate the way he talks about it a little bit more, because I get really bored listening to Christians squabble about which type of Christianity is like is the Eucharist the way to go, or what, like is transubstantiation or consubstantiation. Like I don't, why would I care about that? And how would you know? Like that's like some weird specific shit. I'm like, oh, I like I like what Peterson says about God. I don't care what Trent Horn versus Matt, whatever, the Pints of Aquinas guy, what they butt heads on about the exact doctrine. It's dumb and weird to me.
So here's Casey, who listens to us sometimes. He's also offered to maybe help us with that letter to a CES letter to an ex-Mormon YouTuber or whatever like that. But he posted in the Latter-day Lobsters the Vervaeke stuff, this is the same stuff that Peterson's talking about. I mean, just might help people put into perspective something that Peterson's on about. Is Peterson doesn't like that people try to center entire belief in God just in the propositional, the top right here, just that. It irritates him because he thinks all the types of knowing are all these things put together. And so somebody could propositionally say they believe in God, but then all this stuff is complete crap. He thinks that person is just as much as a liar as anybody, just as much as Larson thinks that person's a liar. And then Peterson goes saying that he's going to basically do all these things, these procedural, perspectival, and participatory things, although he's not. One of the things that Vanderklay notices is like he's not actually very participatory yet, in the sense of he doesn't go to church anywhere.
Yeah, and he says the F word.
Yeah. And Vanderklay was noticing that. He's like, the number one theologian of the current modern era is on a podcast this week cussing his brains out.
What a world.
So, like the propositional is like this question: what is a mammal? Procedural is like how to kick a ball. This is how you do it. So it's like a different type of knowing than just a proposition. Then perspectival is what it's like to be a person, what it's like to be a good person or something like that. Participatory, knowing by being, or just going and doing and that sort of stuff. And Peterson's always trying to propositional. What is a mammal? Vehicle, knowing something is the case. Standard of realness, truth. Results, belief. Types of memory, semantic. Procedural, how to kick a ball, how to do something. Empowerment, skills, procedural. I don't know what all these things are. Perspectival, presence, awareness. But anyway, Vervaeke's on about this a whole lot too, because he noticed and started going into it. And you guys didn't watch because we started trying to go through Vervaeke's whole project, but we only did like 2-3 episodes. And
because I watched 1 hour as homework for Marty, and it was too much like church. I'm just like, church.
I watched like 6 of them, and then I even went and read Plato's Republic, and I was like, I'm done.
Yeah, we got a little sick of doing it too. Although Seth went and made an entire series out of it that got retweeted by Vervaeke.
I know, I saw.
And Seth, who was on with us, and he made a simplified version of it, so you didn't have to like sit there and listen to like the 30 hours of it or whatever.
Oh, I need the dumb guy version.
But what all that stuff is that Vervaeke's noticing he's pulling this stuff from Plato. This stuff started with Plato, like all this stuff that like. And one of the things he's trying to do is get back to what pre-modern knowledge is. And that's one of the things Peterson's always been on about, is that somewhere around the Enlightenment revolution or whatever type stuff, it kind of changed the concept of the idea of truth only being something that is just you can say on a page and read on a page and disagree with on a page. And he says there's more to truth than that. That makes sense. And that's always kind of argument. And that's been a philosophical argument since Plato 2,500 years ago. And Vervaeke's just trying to flesh that whole thing out. And that's where these 4 P's come from. So if you listen to Peterson kind of dodge those questions, that's one of the things that he's always kind of just dodging about, because he's being Platonic. I've always said Peterson is a Neoplatonist. Anyway. And it's all kind of like mixed in with phenomenology too. Like we've talked about the phenomenology before, which each one of those things, like it kind of goes aligned with the pragmatism, because it was Larson himself who said that there's a pragmatism to reading those scriptures, because if you read those scriptures, because your brain's trying to work out some other dumb crap, you're going to get an answer to something. Well, that's a pragmatism. That's a pragmatism that maybe you lose if you don't sit there reading scriptures trying to sort out something stupid in your head. And maybe you could find it in different ways or do it in other ways. And we were talking about that a bit with Marty this week. Like, is there any sort of way that you can save doing these things while not having to go to the Mormon church? And I think that's kind of a bit of what Troy and Jonathan have endeavored into. And I don't think anybody's quite solved it yet. That doesn't mean I don't think it can be solved. But I feel like Larson's kind of like back end coming into it, but not quite getting it, because he does it from a constructivist viewpoint that can't make sense and has to have cognitive dissonance with it, because he doesn't believe that humans are animals. But at the same time, he'll say this stuff. It's like one of the things is like we're always trying to get these guys to see that evolutionary theory is not just those stories, which is part of what Jonathan and Troy are on about. But the people who don't like the evolutionary stuff do like the concepts of almost kind of like the digital concept of there's no such thing as free will. And I don't necessarily see how they're not the same concept, because if like evolutionary biology would have to play in hard to there being no free will. Would it not have? Would it? I mean,
yeah, I mean,
you are what you were evolved into being. There's nothing you can do about that.
You are what you choose to be.
Yeah.
It just made me think of Iron Giant.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So
their genes are determined.
Did you watch that video Troy posted about Tucker Carlson talking evolution?
not the whole thing. I saw Aaron
I saw
some of it.
That was bafflingly stupid. Like there was some dumb things,
It's
Like,
weird. Yeah. It's
There- I
high
mean, there
level
were-
retardation for
there
a
were
guy
some
that
pretty dumb
smart.
things, but then when he used domestic dogs as an example of why evolution doesn't exist, that's one of the dumbest things I've ever heard in this evolution.
I
thing.
listened to his
I
Joe
don't even
Rogan
understand
episode,
it.
so I only
No,
partially
he said
remember all
he
he
said
talked
he's
about.
talking about like wiener dogs. Like if how could something evolve to be from a wolf to a wiener dog? Right? That's absurd. And like wait a minute, that's unnatural selection. We bred the derpiest motherfuckers together for centuries.
He
probably.
thought wiener dogs were a natural product of natural
I don't know. It
selection.
might have just been an off the cuff thing, but god damn, that was
because that would be like pretty misunderstanding what's going on.
I thought he was
That's
kind of
things
trying
I
to make
find
a
is-
point, and I don't remember, but I thought he was making the point that no matter, even though we can do unnatural selection with dogs and rats and mice and all that sorts of stuff, that we can't make a different species.
he
Like,
might have been. I don't know. That's I didn't watch the whole thing. I just watched that. I just watched the Professor Dave thing that Troy sent. So maybe they didn't show the whole thing.
Yeah, no, I don't know. Because I saw it's like Aaron Raw covered it. I watched like 10 minutes of that, and then it's just all like, okay, this is all stuff I've heard before 10,000 times. But
it was just Tucker being like a kind of like a dumbus on evolution as
he's
kind of a
he's
typical
a Catholic,
Christian,
right?
Yeah, it's just like a typical Christian not getting it early and then just saying it how it is.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's the thing. Like, lots of people misunderstand. Like, even lots of people who, affirm affirm evolution, and say, "Of course, I believe in evolution." A lot of them I find misunderstand it. Not that I'm any kind of expert, but I'm an expert because I read The Selfish Gene. That's what I know about it. But I mean, I don't know, because like that book.
They are
I was just gonna say, like The Selfish Gene, like that book was one of the most like worldview altering things I've ever experienced. Like that book did more to change how I view everything than any other book I ever read.
Yeah.
That's when people tell me that Dawkins blew my mind. I'm about to go down one of two roads. I'm about to be either like on their side or thoroughly unimpressed because I say, okay, what book? And if they say The Selfish Gene, I'll be like, yeah, that's a cool book. And if they say The God Delusion, oh, fuck off.
Yeah.
If God will, why bad thing happen? That's most of what The God Delusion is.
So there are some, and one of the persons who's actually really, really good at breaking down the difficult questions is Troy. Troy has obviously looked really hard into anytime somebody brings up like because there's been a lot of challenges to it lately. And even Brett Weinstein has thrown a bone to some of the challengers. If you listen to some of his most recent episodes, his bone doesn't say that you got it right. His bone's saying that like, at least you guys are asking questions and the questions are getting hard, but we got answers so far. But he says like any true scientist would welcome the hard questioning when stuff gets like that sort of deal, right? But one of the things that is true about it is the timeline gets a little bit difficult, and that's one of the areas where Dawkins and Stephen Jay Gould got into a bunch of different fights, which is just about like how fast the evolution can happen or not.
Yeah.
And Dawkins thought it had to be long, slow, short. Stephen Jay Gould came up with like those concept of directed equilibrium.
Punctuated equilibrium. Basically, the whole difference was does evolutionary change happen more or less gradually at the same rate, which is what Dawkins was saying, or are species more or less stable over long periods, and then because of different factors go through relatively, again, like this is all geological timescales, relatively quick changes. And like from what I can tell, in the latest consensus is that it's probably some of both, but I don't know.
I would think in some cases, especially for like how timelines fit, it had to have gone faster, get moved faster. But on other aspects too, just from like mass death and stuff like that, I don't know how that wouldn't have made stuff move faster. Like sometimes I think death often makes it move. But one of the things that's weird about Stephen Jay Gould, which he was a Marxist, and he would mix in Marxist theories into his evolutionary theories, but he was also very, very anti-evolutionary psychology. And he's the one who came up with the term of just so fallacy. And so one of the persons who Stephen Stewart who's the guy that we read his whole book, The
Williams?
Eighth to Understand? Stephen Stewart Williams.
I'm
His
pretty
whole
sure.
last chapter was like an argument towards Stephen Jay Gould and his bullcrap saying that it's a just so story about evolutionary psychology. This is real and it's a real field. And we've got real evidence going on a lot of different issues. That was like a direct answer to Stephen Jay Gould's. Well, he assumed evolution happened to the biological creature and everything in the world, but stopped right at the human brain for some reason.
I never
one
got
of
to
those
finish
books.
that book because I lent it to a friend and she lost it.
Death.
I know. I
Death is
need
the
to
only.
go. I need to go buy another copy because that book was fucking great.
So I
That
think
was,
most.
by the way, I'm pretty sure our conversation about the whole R score thing, Flip. I was thinking that was in the selfish gene. It wasn't. It was in the ape that understood the
Oh.
universe. So I think I was just mistaking that.
Yeah,
I have it in
I was
digital book,
confused.
which means I'll never lose it. There will never be a Fahrenheit 5 whatever to my digital copy. They'll just John Larson will get to break into it and change all the data in it. These guys, I mean, I bet you if like I held their toes to the fire, they'd believe in evolutionary psychology under certain aspects or times, but it really kind of comes out more in the concept of no free will, which I don't know how they don't go hand in hand. But there's so much about evolutionary psychology that just pisses off constructivists that that you can just like, let me take you down this line just a little bit and we will find something that pisses you off and you deny real quick. And I know I'd be able to do that with them.
Religious and that they engage their faith and they get their identity from their faith. I get it. That doesn't mean I should let them around me. I've got a bobcat out there that has killed many of my chickens, but I've got it so the bobcat can't kill my chickens anymore. I may want to keep that bobcat out of my chicken coop, and I may, in fact, want to kill that bobcat at some point. But I can't fault the bobcat for wanting to eat my chickens. That would be stupid. That would be folly. And maybe I look at religious people now like I look at the bobcat, and those who can look at the bobcat.
Is that a death
and say,
threat?
Thus goes a bobcat.
It would be if it was the other way around.
I know. I
wouldn't
was
it?
going to say if I had John Larson derangement syndrome, I would be accusing him of a death threat right now.
But this is another thing, just like the religious belief. I don't believe that they actually believe that. Like in these moments, they'll stop and say it, but they'll turn around and hate the bobcat tomorrow and say, why didn't that bobcat stop being a bobcat and type stuff.
Stop it, Bobcat.
Stop it, bobcat. Anyway, all that stuff is just kind of weird musings because I mean, I think I do try to just understand why religion serves a purpose. John said it again in that thing, like so many other people do, is that he assumes that the religion was like black mold that came along. Like it wasn't adaptive. It was like an accidental. How does Dawkins say it? Like it's a mutated problem. Like it's a virus. It's something that's not supposed to be there. I think it's something that was supposed to be there and helped humans grow and get there. I think that's kind of what Troy and Jonathan are saying too. It doesn't mean that 1, 2, 3, all the religions or any of the religions are even true, but it's obviously just an evolutionarily, evil psych positive or advantage so far. And just like anything throughout history, anything that is an advantage can then later become a disadvantage. Like the horns of a deer can be an advantage to fight off the other deers, and then pretty quickly later turn into a disadvantage when getting hunted. Like stuff that's an advantage becomes a disadvantage. That happens through time, as stuff changes in the world. But I think that I'm just trying to understand what and why it's there, not be angry at it, and then also figure out like, well, what the crap can we do? Or is there something we can do? Or is it a lost cause? Or as like Spangler and Toynbee have pointed out, like it's cycled through many times in history, just as Jonathan and Troy were musing about, and there's nothing you can do. The cycle's going to cycle. And I don't think I'm a historicist like that. I think maybe stuff can change or be changed. I don't know. But there is a lot of stuff to look at and enter into data as ways it went wrong in the past. But maybe that's how you do stuff better, is you just enter in more data. I don't know. But I think people like Larson and the cultural constructivists or the critical constructivists and all sorts of stuff, they hinder understanding. They slow understanding rather than speed it up, even if they roundabout kind of get there. That's my belief on the stuff.
Steve is asking what animal John Larson reminds you of. He's saying badger. I was gonna be meaner, but I guess I've been pretty mean. But yeah, his face looks badgerish.
I guess I'd say that a little bit. I feel like there's something else. It'll come to me. Did you guys catch that John Dehlin's super straight?
Yeah, I heard he's super straight. He doesn't realize how problematic that is, but
Yeah,
I know he doesn't.
Somebody got to tell Johnny he's transphobic.
Most of you will know I was excommunicated, but I'm also super straight. But I was advocating back in 2013.
Oh, I am not a dick. I know that's just because he's super everything's super. Why do you think you landed on that word? Is that like some regionalism, or is that
the
just
Mormon thing, man?
Is
It's
it?
like that makes you no, seriously, the people who like there's certain people who when you hear their voice, you know they're Mormon. They have like and all those people I know say the word super the amount of times that John Dehlin does.
So I don't know if you know, John Dehlin, you have a flag. It's the super straight flag.
Fly it with pride, buddy.
The straight flag or heterosexual flag is a pride flag intended to represent heterosexuality. Some straight flags represent straight pride. And of course, there's going to be a bunch of what does the orange and black super straight flag? They're going to say it's problematic.
Is it a hate symbol?
It's a hate symbol. Did you know that they even had like straight month? It was like September straight. That's your month now, John Dehlin. September super straight month. Look at this GLAAD. Here's GLAAD. Online anti-LGBT
defined.
Hate terms defined. It's you used a hate term, Dehlin.
I wonder if the ADL has already deemed that hateful.
No, like how long until Dehlin is on the ADL for using hate language?
Super straight white male. Launched in prominence in February 2021 by TikTok user Kyle Royce. This particularly transphobic trope and corresponding hashtag was quickly taken up by anti-trans social media users, disingenuously premised on a logical fallacy. It's
a logical fallacy. No, it's satirizing a logical fallacy, you doinks.
Yeah, keep reading that.
Also, like I like that they named the guy like he's some public figure when he was just a random
he was just a TikTok kid. He was just a fucking kid,
and he just came up with a clever satire, and they're like, they have to fucking name him.
I don't know that he was doing satire. I think he was just trying to communicate to people that he only wanted vaginas and had no other way to say it. He's like,
really? I never watched the actual kid who invented it.
I think that's what he was trying to say. He's like, I've come up with a new term because I want you to know that I just want a vagina. I don't want a woman with a penis. And so I
didn't consider that. It was just that that it was a Poe, that he was just taking queer theory in the obvious direction that he needed to take it.
Oh, did you see Forrest is asking about that Chiefs kicker?
Yeah, I've got some clips on that.
That was one of the funniest things ever. Did you see the NFL came out and condemned what he said or whatever? Which is one of the funniest things ever. It was like the news headline should read, "Church guy says church thing at church."
At church school.
Yeah, at church school.
We're so sorry he said a church thing at church.
Yeah. Does this show the actual video of it? Come on, it's not loading. Logical fallacy. This is really premised on a logical fallacy. The super straight meme offers a combination of whataboutism and false equivalency. Oh, they're getting
whataboutism.
Wow.
Yeah.
They're throwing them all out there.
That link just linked to another article saying that it's transphobic. Them. TikTok Reddit ban transphobic Super Straight post linked to neo-Nazi groups.
You know that meme where there's a crowd of people talking and somebody shouts something at them and they don't listen. They shout it again and they give them a thumbs up and go back to talking. That's my attitude toward accusations of transphobia at this point. I'll be like over here talking. So yeah, I only like females. I'm only into vagina, and that's transphobic. Like, oh, okay. Like, you're transphobic. Oh, all right. Whatever. That guy's calling me transphobic.
See, if Jen had half a brain, she'd jump on this and say, see, he said he's super straight. Don't you know that's anti-Semitic? Which is actually something that started getting said about that kicker from the Chiefs this week.
Oh, he's
anti-Semitic?
Yeah, did you see that?
How's he
I
mean, he was
want to see all the people had to tuck their
because he was talking the gods
behind their backs while they called him anti-Semitic for talking.
Wait, he was talking what stuff?
He's talking Gazi stuff. Here it is. Look, okay.
Gazi?
Gazi.
Oh,
yeah.
Gazi.
Douglas Mackey, I just received this push notification, which was sent to millions of people from Microsoft. It links to a Rolling Stone piece filled with disgraceful partisan lies from an ex-Media Matters lickspittle. I hope Butt Kicker 7 sues both Microsoft and Rolling Stone for this. Show more. Trending story for you. Chiefs kicker spread anti-Semitic lies in Benedictine college graduation speech.
Did he say anything at all about Jews? Like at all?
No, he's just saying that it's that same stuff that came up. So Dan McClellan did a whole video on it already because he said that the guy was talking about that bill that passed that everybody was critical of, that said that the SPLC would let people declare what was anti-Semitism or not, that sort of deal, which it kind of like shoots stuff in the face if just immediately people started saying that all over Twitter that he was being anti-Semitic and that it goes against the bill. But of course, McClellan jumped on it to say, oh, this guy got that bill all wrong because it's not even passed yet. What an idiot. It's so stupid, man. First, I'll go here. Share this tab instead.
I mean,
NFL issues a statement condemning Chiefs player Harrison Butker speech against homosexuality. Yeah. So where is it?
See, he said shit that I don't agree with, but I'm like, imagine giving a shit that a Catholic dude says Catholic things, but B, you guys spent the last 15 years at least injecting politics into places where it didn't belong, and now you're mad when the other people are doing it. Every other commencement speech, we had that dude come out as gay at his or that woman, whatever. No, it was a guy, came out as gay at his commencement speech, then got all butthurt when Jeffrey R. Holland said that's probably not the place for it. And I'm like, I don't understand how you can be bothered when they're doing the same thing you're doing. They're not saying the words you want them to say.
Well, they're supremacists.
You ready for the anti-Semitism?
Oh, God.
Bible and religion. The fit for this video is Deadpool.
Stop doing the Marvel fits, Dan.
Let's take a look at a video.
We fear speaking truth because now, unfortunately, truth is in the minority.
All right, let's see it.
Congress just passed a bill where stating something as basic as the biblical teaching of who killed Jesus could land you in jail.
So this isn't truth. This is a collection of falsehoods. Congress did not pass H.R. 6090. The House passed H.R. 6090. The Senate hasn't even considered it yet and is not going to pass it. It is an awful bill. It is an attempt to institutionalize Christian Zionism for the sake of the right-wing authoritarian structuring of power. And
wait, why is that bill an attempt to enter Christian Zionism? Like, what the hell are you talking about?
What's the bill say?
It's that bill we were talking about.
Yeah, it's that bill that it was pretty bipartisan passed in the House.
It lets the ADL decide what is anti-Semitic hate speech. I don't see how that's a Christian nationalism thing.
Oh, that definitely.
Yeah, the ADL is very leftist.
Yeah, well, and it definitely would not hold up to scrutiny.
Matt Walsh came out hard against it, freaking out about it.
I'm pretty sure Shapiro came out against it.
Like,
Zoltan Shapiro.
I'm so confused about what the bill, like, the bill says the ADL determines what is
Yeah,
anti-Semitic,
that's what was
and
so
then what?
stupid about it.
And then there's a law that. So
No,
what?
it was just like some
Like-
civil thing about being removed from platforms or something like that. It didn't even have any teeth to it. It's a stupid bill.
Yeah, okay, it's like a symbolic law.
Well, it is a law that everybody knew wasn't going to pass. You know,
I don't know. Yeah, that sounds retarded. Who put that forward?
some House
Pretty sure it
Republican.
was. Yeah, it was a Republican.
It was a Texas
It's-
Republican.
Yeah, it's just a bunch of Republicans. Republicans are totally willing to do identity politics when it involves Israel.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
They'll
yeah,
jump all
no,
over.
that's retarded.
It's and they're buddies on it now, and and of course the leftist House reps are like, well, we don't want to look anti-Semitic because we know that's what it looks like. If we say it should be legal to not like a type of person.
Yeah, I could probably find the video. Let me just go back to this.
And values, even though Christian Zionism itself is deeply anti-Semitic. But it also
What?
doesn't throw anybody in jail for saying that Jewish people killed Jesus, which, by the way, is not supported by the historical data and is only inconsistently claimed across the 4 different Gospels, who represent responsibility for Jesus's death in different ways. But additionally, it's not outlawing saying that Jewish people killed Jesus. It is adopting a specific definition of anti-Semitism that it wants to outlaw unconstitutionally, and that definition includes this example of anti-Semitism. Using the symbols and images associated with classic anti-Semitism, example, claims of Jews killing Jesus or blood libel, to characterize Israel or Israelis. So unless this person is using symbols and images to characterize Israel or Israelis as responsible for the death of Jesus, then they're not running afoul of anything in this awful anti-Semitic bill. So this person doesn't have the foggiest idea what they're talking about. They're not speaking truth. They're just...
I don't disagree, Dan, and neither do you. You are full of shit.
I'm actually pretty. This is like one of the first times in a while, and like he called it unconstitutional.
Yeah, he's calling it unconstitutional,
Wow.
but he's also calling a bill that would put a Jewish NGO, Israeli NGO, in charge of deciding what's anti-Semitic or not, is not an anti-Semitic bill.
I'm also really curious about his whole what was it? Dan McClellan's gonna make me start reading the fucking Bible, because like when he says that like it's not corroborated throughout the 4 Gospels that the Jewish people killed Jesus. I'm like, well, what are you talking about? Like, weren't they the ones that said bring us Barabbas or whatever?
Well, there's the whole thing that depending on which gospel, some gospels very clearly blame the Jews. Some gospels very clearly blame Pilate. And it's because
it feels like there's obviously blame to go around in that story, right?
Yeah, no, but like it is a case that like if you have just one gospel, like if you had just one gospel and spread it around to different Christians and like they were isolated for 500 years and they got back together, they would all be fighting with each other about the details.
Braying petty, naive, and false right-wing authoritarian identity politics.
I am certain the reporters at the AP could not have imagined that their attempt to rebuke and embarrass places and people like those here at Benedictine wouldn't be met with anger, but instead met with excitement and pride. Not the deadly sin sort of pride that has an entire month dedicated to it, but the true God-centered pride that is cooperating with the Holy Ghost.
Was that the homophobia?
To glorify him.
So this is also not truth, but an outright falsehood. This individual is trying to suggest that gay pride is pride that qualifies as the first of the 7 deadly sins. But the Oxford English Dictionary provides this sense as the first sense for the noun pride, a high, especially an excessively high, opinion of one's own worth or importance, which gives rise to a feeling or attitude of superiority over others, inordinate self-esteem. In this sense, the first of the 7 deadly or capital sins. This is not the sense of pride that is used in Pride Month or in Gay Pride. The Oxford English Dictionary provides that sense much further down. Here, this is sense 1.6a, a sense of confidence, self-respect, and solidarity as felt or publicly expressed by members of a group, typically one that has been socially marginalized, on the basis
When was that added?
of their
I
shared
love-
When was that added? That was added in the last 3 years.
You're right.
Typically,
We don't even look it
Since
up. We
when?
know you're right.
yeah. Come on.
And this is the same guy who thought bloodbath didn't have multiple meanings in there, although we could just read it, and it's probably already been removed just in the last. Didn't we
Yeah.
already see that they had removed it from one?
Yeah,
week?
no, you called it. You called it.
But he's the guy who, everything is set up around him being able to pick and choose what we are to intend from all meanings. Here's some detail on.
Now that I've had some more time to investigate it further, and then I have 2 additional thoughts to offer. But first, to review. The Anti-Semitism Awareness Act that just passed the House mandates that when the Department of Education enforces federal anti-discrimination laws, it does so according to a definition of anti-Semitism provided by something called the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance. So the legislation is mandating a certain definition of unlawful anti-Semitism, but it has farmed that definition out to this other group. Insanely, the bill itself...
It's a shit bill, but the
Yeah,
way
like
that Dan describes it as right-wing anti-Semitism authority is just ridiculous. Like, I don't know.
Yeah,
like,
no,
they're obviously very pro-Semitic people.
Well, that's the thing I want to know. That's the thing I'm actually very curious about. I want him to explain to me how Christian Zionists are anti-Semitic, because he said that. He's like, Christian Zionists are often anti-Semitic. Like, what are you talking about? They believe in an ethno-state for the Jews.
I can sort of, okay, here's the complication with that, is that in America, there's an awful lot of evangelical Christian
dispensationalism.
Who believe that by helping to get Israel established, they can kick off Armageddon, where God comes and kills all the Jews and Jesus rules and all of that shit. And so, in that sense, because there is this very kind of backhanded thing of hey, let's help because when I used to listen to Christian,
it's like husling up the red heifer. It's totally like hustling the red heifer.
Exactly. It's exactly that. And also, when I used to listen to Christian talk radio, they have these charities that exist, and all they do is move elderly Jews from former Soviet republics to Israel and help them do it, because Israel has a thing, as long as you can show you're Jewish, you can be an Israeli citizen, but for a lot of people there's language and money barriers, and so Christians in America pay to get old Russian Jews to move to Israel, and they're doing this in hope, their belief is that by reestablishing Israel, whatever it is, they can kick off Armageddon. And in that sense, because also they believe, again, when Armageddon comes is when God comes and punishes all the Jews. So, in that roundabout way, Christian Zionism can be anti-Semitic. I think the vast majority of American Christians are not thinking about that shit. I think they just see Israel as having a right to exist, and they happen to be Christians. And in that sense, they are Christian Zionists.
Yeah, if anything, most of the Christians that I see are completely cucked by Israel.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
I'm not obviously Israel is a better state than Palestine. Hamas is a terrible organization.
Yeah.
I guess I'm sort of pro-Israel in that state, but the amount of shit that we're supposed to give to them is kind of irritating.
No, I agree with that. I don't know. It's extremely tough because do we really just abandon them to their neighbors that have all vowed to destroy them? And then there's also the strategical issue of having Israel there keeps all of the Middle East in check, as basically an American military extension. I don't know. It's super duper complicated.
There's good arguments to be made that we should help support them. I get that. I guess I get really tired of this weird sort of superiority. The amount of times that Republicans talk about Israel and just totally bow their heads and act like we are subservient to them. When Nikki Haley says shit Like America needs Israel. Israel doesn't need America. Like, no, like, look, we can be buddies, you know, we can be teams or whatever. But
Nikki Haley said that. Well, that's stupid
she
because, like,
said-
no, Israel needs America.
Yeah, I know. And like Ben Shapiro said the same thing before. He's like, "Oh, Israel can fight her own battles," and now he's like, "We need to give them money. We need to give them money." Like, no, they can't fight their own battles. Obviously, like quit acting like they're this like we are lucky to have them. It's like when you grow up and you see the wife who is an asshole to her husband and treats him like shit, and everybody is saying, "Oh man, your dad married up" or whatever. Like, what are you talking about? No, she's an asshole to him. Not my mom. My mom's great. Talking about other moms I saw, obviously.
Other shitty moms.
Yeah.
Do. What else we got?
I guess we'll go back to Dehlin.
I was gonna say, like,
that bill's not gonna pass. I don't the dumber bumpkin Republicans. It's just not anti-Semitism, and Dan's full of shit when he says.
Well, and if it did pass,
is there? We should just have a bumpkin caucus.
Yeah, well, I guess we basically do. But there's a Lindsey Graham was out pumping nukes just earlier today. That's the same group there. But anyway, back to this dude. I don't know if I go back to the Chiefs dude. Anyway, there's always this level with Dan. Like, he gets mad at right wingers for getting upset at the concept of Moloch, because that's not the actual concept of Moloch. Moloch wasn't this baby draining demon or something like that. But it wasn't the right wingers' error. There was worshiping groups all the way back to the same burnt over district of cultists and type stuff who started worshiping that stuff. And if they got the old, whatever Sumerian thing wrong, they were the ones who got it wrong and started Satanists about it. And then the bumpkin dude started saying, "I don't like them Satanists." And then Dan goes, "It's not Satanism, stupid." And in the 200 years, 200, 500, whatever. And it's this endless thing, another area of Marxist lies, that you come down on the conservative for misinterpreting or being wrong about what some leftist was overcharging about. So there were people who came out and said, this guy's an anti-Semite and this goes against all these laws and all these sorts of things. We need to tear him down for this. And there were a bunch of different rags and magazines and things that came out basically affirming that he wasn't wrong, that they wanted to shut him down for that. But Dan makes a video saying, "This idiot's wrong, that bill didn't pass." Yeah, you're right, the bill didn't pass. But a bunch of the obvious people who had the raring idea behind that are out there, and he felt it. He saw it. He's got articles written about him. He's got an entire league threatening to boot him out now about it, but he's the idiot,
That's
it's the same with the Moloch stuff. There's Moloch worshipers since hundreds of years ago, way farther back than that, but they're the ones who got that wrong, Dan. And then when later some other people go along and say, "I don't like those guys who do that," well, "You idiot, Moloch's not even that." Like, they're not the ones that got it wrong, stupid. They just don't like the ones who worship it. Let's see. Anyway, back to Dehlin. I was going off kind of last Saturday about their sexology crap, and I think their sexology is much different than life coach shit. I don't know. They had the whole thing where they reviewed that Fankies guys from the Hildebrandt case thing, where we had real sexologists review it for us type deal and stuff. And obviously Hildebrandt's a nut and crazy and did workarounds that can be done in that profession of sex therapist. But guess who also uses those same workarounds to talk about sex therapy and stuff like this to an audience where they can get advertisement? You guys do that. You're using the same loopholes in
therapy or just stuff. So she runs a group. Tell us about your group.
I run lots of groups, but I do run a faith transition support group, and we just have a lot of different groups.
I just mean your company.
Oh, symmetry counseling. Sorry.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I have several providers that work under me, train under me, and we specialize in this intersection of mental health and religious journeys and sexuality.
Okay. And so the website for that is
simcounseling.com.
okay, SYM
Yes.
counseling, but you've got a new URL, which is
That's the new one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I thought I was getting
So the actual credentialing for this stuff, and she gripes about it too, is as credentialed as Hildebrandt's shit. Because there is no real good credentialing for sex therapy type shit. She gripes about how no university really has a thing, and she had to go to some other university and get on some other plan or something because nobody's really doing it yet. But she's got the obviously like credentialed shit now. And then
you go to a sex therapist with complaints about your marriage. Like, what are the odds that, like, how many out of 10 sex therapists would suggest that you open up your marriage within 3 visits?
Yeah. And I would not like to send my spouse to Hildebrandt at all. And I would not like to send my spouse to Helfer at all, equally. And the certifications equivalent, same field, same workarounds, same horse shit. Like there's nothing that says yours is more certified than hers is more certified. They were griping about how the stuff came out in the case that Hildebrandt asked to advertise for word of mouth through communities and how that was unethical. What did we just listen to there? We just listened to let me see if I can find the actual place where they say it.
And Ruby, our point isn't to say how horrible they are or aren't. It's just to build awareness around what's healthy, ethical religion and unhealthy, unethical religion, what's healthy mental health services and what's unethical, unhealthy mental health services. And unfortunately,
it's indistinguishable.
I guess he knows, though. He'll tell us.
To be able to live in that area.
He was licensed
just
at one
like, how is
point.
she doing that?
Yeah.
And it would make sense that, there was some really what I would consider unethical use of, the credentials that she had that were being endorsed religiously.
Yeah.
Just to put this into perspective, I mean, most insurance companies and most reasonable therapists that I know are charging somewhere between, $100 to $175 an hour as far as being reimbursed by insurance companies. And a lot of insurance companies, quite frankly, pay us even much less than that.
Mhm.
And, you go to therapy about 4 times a month at most. And so you're thinking, at most you're spending less than $1,000 easily. And from what I'm hearing, as far as what people were paying for these programs and these groups is in the $20,000 to $50,000 kind of set for a few months of work, right? Or maybe 9 months of work. And so that just speaks to the desperation, I think, that people have and the manipulation of what you need to quote unquote get saved from these things. And as you were talking to John, I just think too of the term that I hear used in my view, oftentimes colloquially, very inappropriately, is this betrayal trauma. I'm
trauma-based therapy.
You don't like the use of the word trauma, do you?
The ethics of like locking clients in to long-term mandatory contracts and making extra services mandatory.
For therapy services, it's actually unethical.
Yeah.
It is blatantly unethical to do that because you should be able to fire your therapist at any point. You should be able to say, I no longer want to.
I agree with that one.
Oh, yeah. He needs to tell Samantha Shelley that because I guess she offers non-contracted visits now as well.
Yeah, I'm trying to find a spot where they talked about doing the advertisement is unethical. So, but I don't even know that it's necessarily unethical. But I mean, they're obviously doing it right there. But it's obviously unethical for Hildebrandt to do it.
Advertising?
Yeah, or word of mouth advertising through community. I'm like, isn't that just how anybody finds about
Yeah,
any
how would you?
therapist?
How
I don't
could
know,
you
that's-
It's in
possibly
there. I
avoid?
can't find. I was trying to look by the word unethical, but it's in there. They
No,
say
but
that.
how could you possibly avoid word of mouth?
I don't
Like,
know. There's something
if-
I know for medical practitioners. There's special rules, but I don't know. I don't know enough about it. But it might not be that crazy that
I'm
that they operate under different rules.
well, no, I'm saying like you could probably do the thing where it's like, don't go telling your clients to sell you to other clients, right? Like, don't go telling them, tell your friends about me or whatever. But
Yeah, I don't know
What
yeah,
I'm
I don't.
saying is, I bet you if Hildebrandt wasn't doing the stuff that turned out to be nuts, I would say that probably most of the stuff on going through a religion and whatever sort of stuff of advertising other people, and the way that she did it by kind of like staying away from the credential, just like Dehlin staying away from the credential, so he's able to podcast about it, but doing it through like word of mouth type stuff is exactly what all sorts of life coaches and even therapists, and it's obviously a little bit like what Healthware is doing there too. What I'm saying is, like, if her stuff wasn't batshit insane, it's just not that different of what's going on out there everywhere, all over the place right now. Which some people are going to be more insane than others. I'm sure there's even people doing more insane stuff. But if Hildebrandt was just saying, oh gosh, you need to get off the porn, read the Book of Mormon, stuff like that, and all let's talk and think about it and that sort of stuff, and didn't go off doing that other batshit shit, I don't know that the rest of it would have been that illegal, or unethical, or not what everybody else is doing in that field. That's as soft as the science comes. It's just not a field that's like hard metric science world. And anybody practicing in it is fucking around, in my opinion. Kara. So where did it go? I think I pulled up just here it is. Top 10 reasons the Mormonism was false. Did you guys get all the way through it?
wow, no, I
didn't
didn't.
watch
I couldn't do it anymore. I'm like, I don't know that. Did you a top 10 list? Wow, if only somebody had already condensed a list of reasons Mormonism is false. It's
They
great
did.
because
I swear they did.
yeah, I feel
Yeah,
like I've
no, I'm sure
seen
they
this
haven't.
exact video before, but no, I'm sure they've done it. They've done it in TikTok form. Dan McClellan responded to it. This one was great because, like, there's some things that I'll agree with. I was wondering. I was like, man, all of Kara's seemed pretty reasonable, and then Dehlin seemed just off the wall nonsense. But it was because they put them. They each had 5, and then they all put them on a Jenga thing and drew them. She chose the Book of Abraham first, which, yeah, that's reasonable. It clearly was not the right thing, but then he chose, what was his first one? It was like the temple or some shit. Hang on, I got notes on it actually.
I actually summed up all of his into one idea, which is what drove me nuts about him, is none of them were actually really logical arguments. They were all ultimately, if God real, wouldn't he think like neoliberal boomer like me?
Yeah, yeah. No,
I think every single one of them boiled down to that.
His first one was the fairness of the priesthood and how it's very exclusive, and how the Mormon Church doesn't, like, it only accounts for so many people in the world, which would be somewhat true if they didn't have
That's
an
the
entire
minority thing. Of
yeah, like Larson was saying, which would be somewhat true if they didn't have like a doctrine built in to address that and say, yeah, but everybody gets a chance or whatever. And he also in that one explained that it's also rude to have this whole priesthood power thing, because you are telling other Christian denominations that their authority isn't real. I'm like, wait, yeah, all denominations do that to each other. I mean, not all, but like most.
Yeah.
I mean, all Christians are going to tell Mormons, like, yeah, your authority's not real. Your baptism doesn't count. They're saying the same thing to each other. It's
He's
not.
got an issue with that.
Yeah, he said that. He's just trying to, grasp at straws at that point. I don't think he really cares
That's
about it.
idiotic. Yeah.
He also talks about personal revelation is a problem. because and it's funny that one was funny because he basically just wants to. One of the things that you learn when you work for the government is that most of the rules out here, you'll notice that the rules are very, very, very fucking stupid. And you'll realize you'll be like, why does this rule exist? And then you'll meet the guy and you'll be like, oh, you're the reason this rule exists. And like, you are the most, like, you have to make a rule that understanding in the government, you shouldn't have to do this, but the understanding in government work is you have to make a rule for the biggest retard out there. And so we have so many fucking rules and we only get more of them all the time. And I think that's basically what John wants to do, but like socially. That's kind of the same principle that he's applying here because it says personal revelation is something that can be taken advantage by histrionic people. So we ought to basically, he's saying we ought to shape the world to like to where histrionics won't take advantage of things and use them as an excuse to become violent. And like first, that's actually impossible. Like if somebody wants to be violent, if they have those tendencies, you're not going to stop them by saying, actually, you're not talking to God. And that's actually where he does his one thing. And we've heard him say it before, where he says that I'm a big proponent of free speech, but I think it should be illegal to say that you speak for God. Like, well, okay, buddy, let's.
Yeah, that's such a dumb thing to say.
Well, that's like saying I'm pro Second Amendment, but I don't think you should be allowed to own a gun.
Yeah. Believer speech, with the exception of anyone being able to claim that they are a spokesperson for God, because that's too much power and it's too dangerous.
Mm-hmm. Why is it power? It's only power if people believe it.
I know. Well, and it can be dangerous, but it's also, as we've been talking about, sort of an evolutionary thing. The religion thing we've got going on. Kara, I got her first 3. Her first one was Book of Abraham. Like I said, that one I feel like is reasonable. That's just
it's a logical argument.
Yeah, no, that's a very logical argument. The scroll that he said was not even close to A. And then she said the temple, that it's very secretive and Masonic, and I'm like, well, the temple's weird, but all the temple proves is that the Mormon Church is weird. It doesn't prove that it's false, and I don't like that they don't tell you about it very much before you go in. But then they say things like John Dehlin does that thing where he's like, oh, well, that you covenant to pay tithing forever. You didn't know you were going to covenant to pay tithing before you go in the temple. I was like, what are you talking about, man? You don't know that they say those words in the temple, but how is it not already implied when you got baptized? Like you knew that was the rule. They're not springing it on you, man.
That wasn't a bait and switch.
And then she went to treasure digging. Like Kara said that like Joseph Smith's treasure digging is something that is, and that shows him being skeezy, I guess, but that's also not like a total deal breaker. I think some of these people, I don't know, a lot of my heroes were bastards, right? And a bastard is somebody who would do the treasure digging thing and trick people into think that he could find gold places that he couldn't actually find them. So and that was before he became the prophet, So I do feel like there's room for him to be an asshole. I think there are places where he clearly took advantage of his position as prophet, and then I would say that disqualifies him for being a prophet or whatever. But treasure digging, I don't think is one of them. So that one's, all of hers were, the Abraham one was good. The other 2 were kind of weak, but that's as far as I got. I quit listening because I was like, God, I get so tired of these lists, and they've been done way better so many times.
I really think most of John's boiled down to like, boy, if God were real, wouldn't he be nicer than this?
No, all of John's were just, it was littered. It was, he named the thing and then he just sprinkled in just a shit ton of moral posturing. All, like he has to mention every 45 minutes that he's an ally.
And I think most of those things, you have Aristotle's forms of persuasion, the ethos, pathos, and logos. I think Dehlin was all pathos arguments. Like it was like, boy, wouldn't God be nicer? Wouldn't God be nice? And I just don't think that's like a good logical argument, because logos is the other form of persuasion. That's just, no, I don't know that a God would be nicer. Like why would we assume that or something like that? It's like there's logical reasons, and Kara gave a few of them, why this doesn't make sense. I don't really find the meanness to be like that logical of a. I mean, it's a
Yeah.
little bit logical.
No, well, it's logical if you're trying to refute Christianity, I guess. But
yeah, if you're trying to
just
say that
trying
God's all loving or something like that.
yeah, I mean, I feel like most of the arguments for theism, the problem is they bounce around too much, and because a lot of people they'll try to make an argument against theism, but what they're doing is making an argument against Christianity. You know, be like
Yeah.
I know God doesn't exist because there's no way the Earth was made in 6 days. Like, well, no, that's just you made a good argument against young Earth creationism, but that's not actually what we're talking about. And I don't know. I don't even love the whole, and I'm gonna get shit for this. I don't even love the whole burden of proof is on theism thing, because to me it always feels like what the argument boils down to, atheism versus theism, is less like God or no God, and it's more, was their intention behind the universe? Like, is the universe created by something intelligent that intended it, or was it created naturally? And I feel like the atheist argument is saying the universe, we believe, was created naturally. And that feels more like a positive claim to me than a negative claim. I get that it most of the time you talk to theists, it's more of a negative claim because you're saying, I don't think your God exists or whatever. But I don't know. I don't like any of the arguments around this shit.
Well, I was talking to Risto about this in DMs the other day because he was asking me like where I am on all this stuff, and I said I came up with something in the moment that I felt was pretty pithy, which is because almost all the Abrahamic religions, part of God is that God is unknowable, and so I said if God says he's unknowable, I'm not going to argue with him. So that's basically where I'm at. Like, okay, all right.
Yeah, well.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a little bit the same thing of that Aristotelian God that's everywhere and nowhere and all those places like all the same time, which I somewhat appreciate Mormonism for positing like an actual physical God.
Have you heard of that? What is it? Apophatism? I forget the word. I was learning about Ismaili Shiism. And one of their whole things is that their theology is all, you cannot say what God is, you can only say what he's not. And and this idea has popped up in Christianity from time to time. And that's an interesting way, I guess, to look at it, but doesn't really get you anywhere.
Yeah. I don't know. We started out busting on Jen. Now we're all the way back around teasing Dehlin again. But going back to the beginning, Dehlin, we're on your side. Jen's a nut. And we back you up entirely. That
I'm not on your fucking side. You're an absolute retard for hiring this woman. How did you not notice just immediately? There's a 0% chance that she didn't sob during the interview. You're stupid.
That's true. How did she get through that interview without sobbing? He didn't tell me that one. I don't believe that she didn't. That's a good point.
It's funny because John Dehlin, despite having a doctorate in clinical psychology, did not immediately see the woman in front of her was deeply mentally disturbed. And then Jen, the queen of empathy, was in that room having an interview with John Dehlin and did not see the evil face of patriarchal oppression. Like, both of them were just completely blind somehow to the other one's wickedness.
No, I'm on your side, John. I think you're massively retarded for hiring her at all. But she's bad, and I feel bad for you having to go through all this litigation and shit like that, because that's just what an absolute bitch. To
Chris, was it? I think was it you, Chris, that said you'd be willing to donate to Mormon Stories if you knew it was going.
I would. I even asked. I asked on RFM's podcast. I'm like, they said, people don't realize that he's putting these funds towards the legal fund. And I'm like, well, I don't want to donate to Mormon Stories, but I would donate to this legal fund. Is there a way I can do that?
Did you hear? So one of Jen's big things that one of the reasons she said, I can't go on with this lawsuit with a lawyer, it was because I didn't realize John Dehlin was taking donors' money to pay for this thing. I was like,
She's
he
so
doesn't
full.
he doesn't have any money
Yeah,
that
she
isn't
did say that.
donors' money. What are you talking about? His whole fucking thing is money.
Yeah.
Fungible.
Is
It's
donors.
fungible. Yeah. But yeah, Jen, I would donate directly to Dehlin, who I can't stand and don't like very much. I would donate to him to help fight
And
you and your
Jen-
bad craziness. If
and
I could
Jen's
know that it
husband-
went straight to the thing.
And Jen's husband, I have a spare bedroom. You can have it
Yeah.
rent free for a whole year.
If you need to escape.
Yeah, I know this therapist. Her name's Hildebrand or something like that. We can get you in, man. She doesn't have very good ideas, but she has no vocal fry when she's talking. So
It's wild when you hear her trying to explain like the reasonings why they shouldn't have made her come into work on her work day. It's like, well, my daughter's 15-year-old dog was dying, and that dog literally saved her life. And
Oh yeah, I
also,
remember
like,
that one.
I was trying to prepare to tell my parents that I work for Mormon Stories, and that was really traumatic for me to have to do. And it's just like, lady, you are acting like all of these normal person problems are completely unique to you. It's sad when a dog dies, but your dog didn't save your daughter's life.
No, it's like she's cartoon. She's almost a cartoon. Like if you
She's
wrote
cartoon
if you
when
wrote
you
her as
cry.
a character, yeah, if you wrote her as a character in a sitcom, you'd be like, oh come on, nobody is so this bad. But like, no, she really is. Like, she's world class at whatever it is she's doing.
I cannot believe that she got that much gumption under her to go do this thing. It is so like I used to have this thing where I'd get like a vicarious embarrassment if I watch like the Wonder Years. I can't watch the Wonder Years because I get too embarrassed for Fred Savage in the middle of it. I'm like, oh, I can't do it. But I was listening to her get a shellacking in front of that judge in that 4-hour-long one, and I was just sitting there like, oh my gosh, she doesn't even realize like how down to her they're talking. I think
I need to listen to that.
Oh, it's just
It's
embarrassing.
4 hours long, but I started it.
Is it on RFM?
Yeah.
It's not. Yeah, and I get vicarious embarrassment just like kind of like listen to him read like what her rulings were for the stuff of like how those offices weren't duped at all by the way she delayed everything. One of the ways they caught that she had deleted a bunch of text messages is that she gave them text messages that said she deleted the other text messages.
Classic.
She's so dumb. Awesome. That was in all the stuff today. Like half the stuff today was that they found out from the stuff that she gave. She wrote in the stuff that she gave about the stuff that she hid. And it's like, oh my Lord, lady, like, what are you doing? And then she tried to use that argument of saying, well, some things were just private. I didn't want to give that to you because it was private. Like, what? What are you playing? Anyway, I'm sorry, Dehlin, you had to go through that. And even your podcasting this week, even though you said you're a bigoted Sooper Straight or whatever, none of it is that bad. It's just little irritations of the same top 10 list and the same you guys bragging about your sexology therapy stuff or whatever. And I just don't think it's any better than I think there are better things out there in the world. I do not think that you are doing better than Mormons do. That's
I don't think you're doing better than life coaches do.
Yeah, for sure. So sorry. Sorry that's insulting, but I back you on Jen. Send me a way to donate to that legal fund. Want to get off Mormon crap? I didn't even put up the thing for Mormon crap this week. I should have put it up. That was Mormon crap this week. Dun, 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 dun. Dun, dun, dun. National crap. I just heard that Dave Smith's going to debate Chris Cuomo tomorrow night for 3 hours about how stupid COVID shit was, which is pretty
That's
wild
awesome.
that Chris Cuomo's agreeing to do that.
Well, did you listen to his Tucker interview?
Chris Cuomo or Dave?
Yeah.
Dave just dropped the Tucker one this morning.
Because I saw Jimmy Dore was reviewing Chris Cuomo on some other show, and Jimmy Dore was excoriating because Chris Cuomo was like, "Yeah, I didn't know. We were so misinformed about like."
Yeah,
the
I know
information
that was the Tucker one.
Yeah,
was
like that.
That was one of the stupidest interviews I've ever seen.
Full of crap.
They both acted
he
so
talks about-
fucking stupid. Because
he's
Chris
taken-
Cuomo asked him, "Why did you come down so hard against me?" And he's like, and Tucker was like, "I don't know. They told me to." It's like, "What are you talking about?" And
Tucker
he goes,
was giving him an off ramp, and he was giving him the
Did.
gaslight. Like that's
then
the
he did
fine line
say-
between gaslighting and off ramping. That's what.
And he did say, he's like, "Okay, well, you said a lot of stupid things about COVID," and he's like, "Yeah, there was a lot of weird shit about COVID, and it was weird to find out we were so misinformed." I was like, "Okay, no."
Like Jimmy Dore said, like you were the guy misinforming, guy. You were the guy.
Yeah, so Dave
You were the
Smith did a
misinformer.
podcast, seeing him say that on Patrick Bet Davis' show, and Dave Smith gave like an hour-long rant about saying Chris Cuomo was the liar about this stuff. You should let me debate him. And one of the things that Patrick Bet David's Valuetainment gave Chris Cuomo a job. So now Chris Cuomo is going to be part of Patrick Bet David's news channel or something like that. And Dave Smith was a bit incensed about it, and he said, "Well, if your news channel is real, you should let me debate him." And Patrick Bet David took him up on it, and supposedly they're taking a 3-hour debate tomorrow, where Dave Smith's going to hold his feet to the fire for all the lies he supposedly did. Although he was a little worried, saying like maybe the guy's just like so contrite, he'll just come out and say, "Yep, I did that. Sorry," and I'll be done in 5 minutes, and we'll be like, "Okay, well, what do we do for the next 2 hours?"
Let's talk about all the other ways that you were a piece of shit.
Because Chris Cuomo's obviously been trying to go off the off ramp, and some people are giving him the off ramp, and some people are saying, "No, we're not letting you do the off ramp." And I guess that might be just like one area where it's interesting to watch the concept of, do we let him gaslight, or do we just be happy that they're not idiots now? But it's almost like the same thing as like the Ben Shapiro's of the world and free speech and all that sorts of stuff. It's like, you're good now. It's kind of like a neocon who just like learned their last war was pretty bad. And okay, well, I learned my lesson. Okay, great, we're on the same page. But then tomorrow there's a new war. What will the neocon do? It'll just be like, "Well, I learned my lesson on the last one. Let's hold off." No, it'll just be right back to war, and you're a pussy if we don't go to war.
This is exactly how I felt when Anna Kasparian went back on her Rittenhouse thing and was like, "It's weird. I didn't know all this stuff." Like, okay, I'm gonna try to extend you some grace here, but it was your fucking job. And I don't know how you watched the footage that we had right away of the Rittenhouse shit. Made it so obvious that it was self-defense, and it only got better for his case as more footage was released.
So maybe you can give them an off ramp until the next test. Like they have to pass the next test, like when free speech principles on the line, or when like somebody's due process is suddenly on the line. Does she pass the test of waiting, or does she just immediately jump back into? Well, I mean, one of the things that came out this week. Sorry, Flip, did I cut you off from something about?
No, not just because I was going to say about Anna Kasparian. It's just because it's so profound that just I don't even know what the word is. She was invited and was a guest professor in the journalism department at Columbia.
Yeah.
And then she was like, "I don't know how I didn't know. Like nobody told me that the thing about crossing the state lines with the gun wasn't true." I was like, you know whose job it is to figure that out? Journalists. That's the name of the guy, of the person that does that, Anna.
Here's a bit of a zing on the thing, but it came out just this week that no bodies were found at any of the Catholic churches in Canada. And of course, people went and burned down like 80 different churches in Canada. So here's just to go along with the thing about how the press is and will be and all that sorts of stuff. Freedom Tunes just made a thing on it.
Oh yeah, this is good.
Whoa, I heard the Catholic Church has a mass grave of native kids murdered by nuns. Front page. Should we fact check it? Oh no, we don't have to, because I don't like them. Oh yeah, we're gonna.
Remember when the left was all talking about stochastic terrorism?
Yep.
Like
Yes.
this is
Oh,
stochastic
yes.
terrorism. Like once again, everything's projection. But the you put something out in the world and then you hope the terrorism comes from it is what they claimed that I guess Trump would do if he said something like what was the January 6th thing or something like stand down and stand by. That was stochastic terrorism or something like that.
Yeah.
And this is actual stochastic terrorism.
Shoot all you kids there, eh? Oh yeah, that's what you get for being indigenous there, eh? Die, ya native hosers!
Hey, great reporting.
Thanks. Native hosers.
Is that really how it happened?
No, we didn't say whoops.
Oh, thank goodness. Could have really damaged our network's reputation.
That just reminds me of the BP spill in South Park. We're sorry.
We're
sorry. Sorry.
We're sorry. Yeah, I guess that whoops thing is what's going to be going on with Chris Cuomo tomorrow. But we see the whoop stuff kind of happening everywhere right now. But like gaslighting or off ramping, gaslighting or off ramping. I guess that's just who's in control. Do we let you off ramp or do we get gaslit by you? Who's the agent there?
I am a spiteful person. It's difficult because it feels the same thing I felt when I first saw that Atlantic piece that was like, you know what, let's all just forgive each other for the shit we said during COVID. And I was like, you forced me to get a shot and told me I'd get fired if I didn't. Okay?
Yeah.
You told
There's so much about that.
down businesses and crippled the economy.
Yeah. And but now you're gaslighting us still on like why stuff's getting inflated. You'll still just gaslight us there, but that's fine. The
economy's actually great. I don't know if you heard that. It's
only
great.
thing that causes all this is shrinkflation. Have you heard of shrinkflation?
Oh God.
It's greedy corporate companies who just want to make the candy
So-
bar smaller. That's what Joe Biden said.
So I understand that the shrinkflation is, and it's something everybody notices, right? When you get a bag of chips and it's even more air than before and less chips, which you fat fuck, you shouldn't be eating chips in the first place, so stop doing that. But also, if the reverse happens and the companies, like if inflation goes down and the companies add more product and keep the price the same, is it because they're benevolent? Because the shrinkflation is because they're greedy. So would the opposite be because they're benevolent? Or maybe they just want to keep the cost the same because that's the best capitalist move to do?
Of course, it doesn't work both ways.
Either way, acting like that's what causes inflation, or it's not some corporate place's prerogative to do that. And under a free market, you would just say, I'm not going to buy your shit anymore or not. It's ridiculous that Biden wants to put that out there as a reason why all the houses cost triple in the world. But we'll let them off ramp that one in a couple years. Whoops a doodle, whoops. But I've always been of two minds about it because like if all of the people in the world who came and told me that DEI is our greatest strength and bringing more Indian cuisine to the country helps the GDP, and I don't know what sort of like just general idea that we've gotten from like the COVID world, or that it's nobody's transing the kids, and if they're transing the kids, it's good type stuff. And then they all come to the other side of it and say, man, I can't believe people have been saying this other stuff, and they're just standing next to you like they weren't the ones doing it the whole entire time. There's a part of me that will just want to go,
Yeah, that was wild.
Welcome to the fight. It was wild. Yeah, welcome to the fight. Yeah, good thing you were always with us. Just because I don't want to push them back into the thing. But
I know, I'm with you. I don't like it.
That was the lesson of that episode of South Park, Double Down, when because who was it? That girl starts dating Cartman, and everybody's confused because she's a nice girl, and then she leaves him because Cartman is a psycho abusive person. But then there's that whole thing where the girl's like, "Oh, I'm so glad you finally left that piece of crap," and they just start ripping on him, and it pushes her back.
Yeah.
And that's like that is the lesson. Is like, yeah, okay, like you should have just said, "Oh, good, it's great to have you," but no, instead they had to rub it in and say why. Like how did you think that? How were you even there? Instead of just letting her off on the on-ramp, on the off-ramp.
It's a fine line though, because like there's not going to be a part of me that wouldn't love seeing Dave Smith just rub Chris Cuomo's face in the pee-pee that he made in the carpet, But at the same time too, you're happy
Chris
that on
Cuomo deserves it because he's a fucking liar.
But then there's all these other tenuous side of it that if there was a sudden bird flu pandemic tomorrow, Chris Cuomo would just jump right back in to CDC orders.
Yeah.
And that's just kind of, I don't know. Is that what we're just signing up for anybody who we let gaslight? But I mean, it was such a good question because Marty asked it to RFM and RFM just didn't even know what she was getting at. And she was trying to ask him like, well, what about the point that we see now that the Mormons are arguing for us that Joseph Smith was a polygamist? Because I was alive in the lifetime where I was gaslit about that no, he was not. What are you talking about? And that was in my life. And now
Ward
they're the
Radio's-
ones hardcore arguing it.
That's Ward Radio's whole shtick right now is to pretend that you were an idiot if you did not know that Joseph Smith was polygamist. I was told he wasn't a polygamist. Like, I was actually told that by I didn't find out till my mission. And if I were to tell that to Cardin, he'd be like, "Well, you're stupid." He'd say, "How did you not know?"
They do a lot of that.
He have been gaslit about woke and political stuff. I was gaslit about this stuff on even social media. When was social media come out? 2007, 8. I know around 2009 or 10, I had people telling me that I was telling lies about Joseph Smith being a polygamist. 2010ish, you know. And now the Mormons are arguing it for us. And so I don't know that there's any like danger of them reverting back into it. I mean, I guess maybe Connor Boyak's hinting at that he's starting to not believe that he's starting to believe Michelle Stone a little bit. Seems like. And
I thought he had a whole video on it.
Yeah, it seems like he's starting to buy into it, or just saying like, at least we should be skeptical about what the people said about the Joseph Smiths. And but then you have other people just like straight up arguing it, but and then of course somebody like Cardin will yell at you and say, "You idiots, we always said this." But there's always the side of me that just wants to be like, "Yep, you sure did, Cardin." Like
oh yeah, that's right.
Yep.
There was a Sunday school lesson on it every year.
Oh man, let's check in with Evergreen. Things gotten better there since the whole Benjamin Boyce, Eric Weinstein thing. Well, that's Evergreen.
Amazing.
Yeah. Do you want to see more national political stuff, or do you want to see? Carl Benjamin ripped on human resources. It was a pretty good episode. I won't show the whole screen, but it's kind of just like talking about more of his critique of liberalism, but it's a critique worth talking about of just viewing humans as human resources. And I saw one of the better memes about it afterwards of like what happens once you become a manager or a managerial class person. And this also happens to Mormon prophets and apostles and stuff. This is the point of James Burnham's managerial revolution. You become a manager. Sargon talks about it good in that video right there. But look at this. This is Kim Kardashian's mom. When I saw Kim's sex tape as a mother, I wanted to kill her. But as her manager.
What an evil person.
That's what happens with managerialism, and you can see it with the Widow's Mite report and all that sort of stuff. It happens to the Mormons. It happens to anybody. I think even their own scriptures warn them off that crap. But
Yeah. So I got into another bear argument on the ex-Mormon Facebook page because somebody posted that video that Homath refuted that we watched last week, where the guy ups the bear population to human population, and then multiplies that number, but doesn't take into account the number of bear encounters, right? And so I told him, I was like, I said, if you'd like a more honest view, then you wouldn't need to adjust for population size. You'd have to adjust for bear encounters versus man encounters. And I asked, if women had as many daily bear encounters as they do man encounters, do you still think the number of male violence would exceed bear violence? The answer, 100% yes. And I was like, okay, if you live in a large city, you will likely encounter hundreds of men a day, maybe thousands. And she said, my answer is the same. And then went on a long novel explaining to me that women are telling you how they feel, so you shouldn't argue with them. Like, I am not arguing that you feel that way. I am telling you it is irrational. I'm telling you that the idea that a man in like a general man is more dangerous than a bear is irrational.
No, that's like, it's the thing that was like, you don't understand me. It's like, no, I understand you perfectly. I'm saying you're stupid.
It was very difficult for me not to tell. I'm trying to be more Jonathan and less snarky, but fucking hell, I don't know how he does it.
Yeah, I don't know sometimes.
It's kind of magical.
Yeah, I can't. I just get pissed. I started having arguments with that one dude who's come on here and argued with us before, and I just get to the level of saying like, "Go away at midwit," and that sort of deal. But
he got a little butthurt when I called him unhinged.
Yeah. Unhinged. Did you guys see any of the stuff that came out on Twitter about women's angry classes? Or
oh my god, I forgot. Did I post that in the? I thought I was gonna post that.
I think you did, but I got it.
Nice. Guess what? Women can now express their emotions. Isn't that?
Oh, is that allowed?
Women are signing up for rage rituals as a way to release suppressed emotions. They pay like $5,000 for class for this. Yay!
You know what? I want to hear the conversation that I know a bunch of these women, at least a few of them, had to have had the conversation with their husband, like that earns the money and they're the homemaker or whatever. Like, hey, sweetie, I want to go. I don't get to express my emotions very much, so I want to pay a couple $1,000s to go to this retreat where we shriek about men and how men don't do enough for us and how they don't let us express our emotions. And the husband's like, yeah, sweetie, whatever you want.
So
for sure.
This is a tweet or a TikTok that got popular that expresses the duality of women. This is what we're dealing with out there, fellas. So it probably like speaks a little bit to the bear conversation and all that stuff.
Okay, I am the problem. I went on a date with this guy and he was like, it's getting late. Do you want to come back to my place? And I was like, sure, but I'm not going to sleep with you. Like, that's not happening. And he was like, that's totally fine. Just come over. And I was like, cool. So I go to his place. He respects my wishes. He's so nice. He cuddles me all night. And I'm like, are you gay? Like, what? And like, I just wanted him to like try. And then for me to be like, no. You know what I mean? I wasn't going to sleep with him. Now I feel ugly.
You're ugly. I don't know.
This is what. Oh my god. Okay.
Jesus Christ.
That's funny.
And then if it went a
mouth.
certain way, you'd call him, you'd me to him or something like that. Speaking of which, Stormy, even Bill Maher noticed that Stormy Daniels changed her story. She came out on Bill Maher's show years ago saying this was no Me Too thing. I was totally into it. And then she came out just this past week saying it was a Me Too situation.
Dude, if you got to have a pretty fucking insane claim if you've got even Bill Maher overcoming his Trump derangement syndrome.
I know. I couldn't believe it. I'll find it. I've got the tweet of it somewhere. Mitt Romney says, "Watch out for bird flu." Thanks, Mitt Romney. Did you guys watch any of the Jerry Seinfeld?
I saw like the 2-minute thing that was clipped. I saw the thing where people walked out too.
They walked out and he gave like a little speech. Here's Bill Maher on Stormy Daniels. Show host Bill Maher calls out Stormy Daniels for lying by playing an interview he had with her in 2018. Maher noted that Daniels' comments from 2018 were completely different than what she'd said in New York's trial last week. 2018, Daniels told Maher that she was not assaulted, attacked, or raped, or coerced, or blackmailed by Trump. During the trial, however, Daniels claims she blacked out and said Trump was blocking the way. You really think she blacked out? A porn star is used to having sex with people she does not know. That's the job. She's not a good witness, Maher says. Yeah, you're right.
And first I asked her why she
Trump's
had
his
sex with
derangement.
Trump. Listen to that, and then listen to what she says after that, and then we're going to talk about the trial because it's quite a variance of what she said to me in 2018. Why did you Donald Trump? Okay, but you say it's not a Me Too case.
It is not a Me Too case. I mean, I wasn't assaulted. I wasn't attacked or raped or coerced or blackmailed. They tried to shove me in the Me Too box to further their own agenda. And first of all, I didn't want any part of that because it's not the truth, and I'm not a victim in that regard.
That's not what she's saying now. She's talking about he was bigger and blocking the way. It's all the Me Too buzzwords. She said there was a power imbalance of power for sure. My hands were shaking so hard. She said she blacked out. Blacked out? She's a porn star. I don't think sex.
That doesn't mean she's been subjected to the likes of Donald Trump. I might black out too.
Do you really think she blacked out? I mean, a porn star is used to having sex with people she does not know. That's the job. It's kind of like Stormy Bob Stormy.
Stupid. Flip, you used to watch Eurovision all the time. Do you still watch Eurovision?
I did. I only watched Eurovision when I was hanging out with that guy that was into Eurovision. Other than that, the BBC talks about it, and so I sometimes read the headlines or occasionally the articles, but I don't really follow it at all. I know there was a big controversy this time because some guy got Me Too'd. I think it was a Me Too thing, wasn't it? The Dutch guy got canceled moments before he was supposed to go on.
Yeah.
And then I know there's the thing where a lot of people felt like the Israeli lady did a much better job than she got ranked. And
did you see the protests in Sweden outside of her place?
Yeah, I didn't. Did I?
There was a protest the size of a full city protest outside of her place just for don't let the Israeli lady on. Yeah.
Jeez.
I don't have a clip of that. Here's some Eurovision people.
What makes me special?
Yeah.
Come on! Do you know what makes me special? I'm a queer. And I'm a witch! And I'm, I love art. I love drama. I love theater. I'm going to give you a show. I forgot the rest of your question because I'm dissociated.
What the fuck?
Jeez.
Well, that's Eurovision now. I heard most of the acts were kind of like that. Even the winner was supposedly something a little like that. But she's a witch.
She is a witch.
But she had to scream it. She's a witch.
I agree with what Sydney Watson says here. It's quite remarkable how queer went from being an actual insult to a trendy term utilized by boring straight people who are desperate to build a personality around their made-up sexual identity.
Yep.
Oh, yeah. So some dorky guy won it doing a rap or something, but he was also non-binary, queer, or something like that.
They was also
Like-
non-binary.
Because that's been going on. Like, it was 3 years ago when the what was it, Conchita Wurst won, the Austrian. It was a woman in a dress with a beard, literally a bearded lady, and
Yeah.
so like
That was her
you would think they've
talent.
already. Well, it's fine saying great, whatever. But it's just like it's one of those things where it's like, oh look, queerness, okay, and then next year, oh look, queerness, like, oh yeah, you did that last year. Like, what exactly are you trying to say? And it's like, okay, it's just like we're done. We get it. A man in a beard, a bearded lady. We've seen that. We're
Yeah.
done.
Well,
I'm
at
also
least
queer.
now NBC is on top of queer animals. They're just like on top of all the stuff right now.
That's real. That's really, really real.
This is real.
Oh my God.
The paparazzi really are
Well, maybe I'll get in trouble for this stupid advertisement.
everywhere.
Everything you were taught as a kid is wrong.
Oh, they always say it that way.
Gay penguins, bisexual lions, sex-changing clownfish.
Humans aren't clownfish.
Sex
Humans aren't
changing.
clownfish.
Yeah, but that's they're not doing it out of queerness.
Yeah.
Like I hate it when people try to use different animals.
You've
to
heard that
disprove,
rap
like,
of
a sex binary.
people aren't clownfish.
I
Have you heard
haven't,
that?
no, but I hear this all the time. They'll be like, "There's actually this species of fish that can change its sex." Or did you know that the male seahorse is the one that carries the fetuses or whatever? I'm like, yeah, but we're not seahorses, okay? Like I'm not
Yeah.
here to deny, because alligators are kind of cool in that the sex is entirely determined by the temperature, almost entirely determined by the temperature at incubation. Like if it's a certain temperature, that alligator is going to come out a female. If it's a different temperature, it'll come out a male. It's kind of a cool fact. And they'll throw that at you to be like, see, sex isn't as cut and dry as you think it is. Like, no, that's still pretty cut and dry. It's just a different version of cut and dry. It's the alligator version of cut and dry. Theirs is, yeah, if you were incubated at 98 degrees, then you're going to be a female. That's it. That's all it means. But in humans, that's not the case. It's still pretty cut and dry, though. Almost always, if you get that, if you have a Y chromosome, the SRY gene is on that Y chromosome, which determines that you're probably going to produce, or at least have the function to produce, small gametes. It's very not complicated.
Here's this.
What about clownfish? Human beings aren't clownfish, but clownfish can change sex. Human beings aren't clownfish. Sure. You doubt this. Human beings aren't clownfish.
I don't know how much I can show of that one, but
Oh, that's amazing.
Who did that?
it seemed pretty old. It's like 2 years ago. His name's
Oh, I guess that's how long this dumb idea has been kicking around.
I think that's the chorus of the thing. 'Cause, like, it comes back up like later. Hold on. Where it was. Yeah, here it is.
Side. What about clownfish?
Yeah, it's later.
Human beings aren't clownfish, but clownfish can change sex. Human beings aren't clownfish. You're a bigot. You're clownish in an outfit and that clown wig, an announcement. I know you doubt this. But human beings aren't clownfish.
Yeah.
Risto says he's asking for Michelle. Do adult animals have sex with young animals?
Here, I put that in the. There's human beings aren't clownfish. Aaron Francis, the guy's name. And back to this.
Changing
Clownfish.
clownfish. This is a queer planet.
This is a queer. They are saying
A queer planet. This is a queer planet.
Queerness has always existed. It's only in humans that we have such a stigma about it.
The idea of just having two fixed sexes is clearly out of style.
Mother Nature
Out of
is open-minded.
It feels like, you know how like the ex-Mormons are always talking about how Mormons are behind the times on stuff. It feels this wokeness stuff feels like it's getting behind the times. Like you produced this a year or two ago, and if you could undo it now, you'd wish you could undo it. That's what it's starting to feel like.
Out of style. That sounds like that sounds like one of my Republican friends would write that, like just normie Republican friends would write that line as some sort of a satire. And I'd be like, that's a little on the nose, the whole nobody says it's out of style. They just say it's incorrect. Nope, they say it's out of style. Jesus Christ.
Sex is not just for reproduction.
It's clear that no matter
this is on NBC coming
where you look on our planet, nature is full of queer surprises.
To be honest, we should all probably get laid a little more than we do.
Peacock Original Queer Planet new documentary June
Jesus.
6th.
Like one of those was just showing two male rams sort of nuzzling together.
That's queer, don't you know it?
Have you never hugged a man?
Don't you know it? That's queer. Don't you know it?
Is it queer every time you hug a man?
Don't you know this? You sent me this meme right here. I mean, there are transsexuals in the Bible. What's your source? Throwing down pieces of silver in the temple, he departed, and he went and hanged himself. I mean,
that's mean.
It's mean, but it's like you have to do a lot of interpretation. But you can see. I mean, if a ram waving its paw or whatever at another ram can be queerness. I mean, that's got to be queerness, right? Human beings aren't clownfish. Assassin's Creed is called full DEI.
Jesus Christ. Assassin's Creed's been pretty bad for a while now. I didn't play their latest game. I've been pretty I used to play all of them. I've played all of them except for the newest one. But this one, they announced it. I've been wanting a feudal Japan Assassin's Creed for years. And I'm so glad that Ghost of Tsushima exists, because when the game comes out, I'm just going to play through Ghost of Tsushima again. Because this is so dumb. I don't know if it's been confirmed that he's gay, but it said that he is a black LGBTQ+, which, wait, why are you labeling a specific person LGBTQ+? That's like if you lumped cars, bicycles, rollerblades, and airplanes together, and you were like, yeah, my brother bought a car, plane, bicycle, or airplane the other day. Like, wait a minute, this is which one did he buy? Just say the one. But no, they're making the black.
Charles can't wait for it. Charles, you can't wait for the new Assassin's Creed, even though it's got that's an Assassin's Creed game or movie.
It's a game.
Oh, I thought it was a show coming out with the black.
No. They got the Black Samurai, and
I need to play Ghost of Tsushima still, but I still need to get the next generation console, and I need to play Troy's game. Unless he says some animals eat their own offspring, maybe we need to try that. Wait till we get GPT characters in the game. Human beings aren't clownfish. Want to see something? It's a good thing they're putting all that DEI in, because this DEI situation just came up. BLM activist who was the diversity executive at Facebook and Nike has been sentenced to more than 5 years in prison for stealing over $5 million. Barbara Furlow Smiles joins a long list of fraudsters who enrich themselves on leftist race politics. It's amazing they end up going to jail for it, though, these days. But I'm sure there's no fraudsters over at, what is it, Ubisoft? Ubisoft that does the Assassin's Creed?
Yep, it is.
I'm almost done with Zelda. I'm gonna get there.
How are you not done with it yet?
Because I just go little by little, like every fourth day when I get a moment.
Everybody else spends 3 hours a day playing video games. Chris spends 3 hours a day exercising.
Yeah, I get like 25 minutes ish a weekend video games, but I'm gonna get through all the stuff. Let's see.
I've been playing Civilization this whole time. Meanwhile,
yeah, well, that's the other things I have to click around at the bullshit.
he's
on
got to be
this.
the
I
click
can just play
master.
the
Yeah.
game.
Oh yeah, that's what we should do. We should have an episode where one of us takes over all the hosting, and you just will play. Can you
That
live
would be
stream
nice.
it?
And then I could finish Zelda on the live stream while you guys click around on dumb shit like this. The New Republic. It can happen here, and it does. Here's what might become of the country. And they have a picture of Trump, and it's obviously got like some sort of a AI photoshopping of.
I'm not gonna be able to do it. I'm not gonna be able to do the off ramp. I'm just not. Like this shit is gonna break me. They're gonna be like one of my friends at some point is gonna be like, yeah, man, that Trump shit was crazy. People really overreacted. I'm like, you put a picture of him with the Hitler stash, okay? You called him literally Hitler, and you locked us all in our houses for like months at a time. Fuck you. I can't do the off ramp. I wish I could. I don't have it in me.
Yeah, it's gonna be tough. That is very true. This is here's a meme you put of the sneaking black person. How are they gonna do that? I saw I watched that whole Shogun series, which is all right, and then there was complaints all over the internet, like, where's all the black people? Like in
Yeah, I saw that.
1600s something, end of 1500s into 1600s Japan. I don't know, where are all the black people?
I don't know. Where were the African circumnavigating the globe teams? I don't know what to tell you, man. Like, just I don't care.
I've never played any of the Assassin's Creeds. Are they all right?
I never played them. I watched people play them, and they looked really good.
A lot of them don't hold up super well. I don't know. Everybody's favorite is Brotherhood. I've played all of them except for the newest one. My favorite one is still Black Flag. That's the pirate one. The controls, the controls are going to feel pretty janky. My least favorite one was Syndicate. That's the one where you're in industrial revolution Britain, and you have they give you like a Batman grappling hook, which feel a little out of place, and also you can do side missions for Karl Marx. And he's just such a nice guy, and he just feels bad for the oppressed workers. You can also do side missions for Charles Darwin, who, like, I swear to God, he like moonlights as a vigilante of, like, he wants you to help him destroy this poison because he says this poison is an example of unnatural selection. It's like, Jesus fucking
brother.
It was one of the most retarded things.
They had a Karl Marx bit
If the
in
whole
there,
game
didn't
had
they?
the tone of South Park, like that would all be fine. But like the game is, I know the game it's supposed to have a more serious historical tone than that, even though it's doing like time travel shit. You know, like I know, like, I mean, because like my friend, the one I watched my friend play whatever the one that's set in Rome is, right?
Odyssey.
Is that the one? Yeah, and it's just because the thing that that I remember him talking about was that, like, because he spent some time in Rome and learned the layout of Rome and like literally got around the Assassin's Creed game based on his actual physical geographical knowledge of how to get around in Rome, which was like pretty remarkable.
So Odyssey was it's a fun game. It didn't feel like an Assassin's Creed game because they turned it more into an RPG. Plus, it's set like I think 1,000 years before the Assassins organization is even founded. So it's kind of they shot themselves in the foot by founding it in the previous game in ancient Egypt. But it's that one's weird because like the final boss is Pythagoras, who is immortal. And,
Immortal Pythagoras? You know, actual Pythagoras like started a cult, right?
Yeah,
Did
no,
he really?
I knew that. Yeah, it was a famous cult.
Yeah.
Like they were like, I don't know what you call it. They're not Gnostic, but that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like they literally believed in magical math.
Pythagoras cult. What was it called? Pythagoreans worshipped numbers, believed in reincarnation, and practiced vegetarianism. Established in 6th century BCE, Pythagoreanism was a philosophical school and religious movement based on the beliefs and teachings of its enigmatic founder Pythagoras and his followers, the whatevers.
Those guys.
Those guys. Yeah. And it was supposedly really, really weird, I guess.
Apparently, I don't remember any details at all, but I know from listening to Bob Price that he talks about how some Pythagorean and stuff seems to have influenced a lot of like gospel and early Christian stuff.
Son of Hermes, and you remember we talked about Hermeticism. So he believed he was the son of God and the son of Hermes, who gifted him the power of remembering who he was in past lives. Pythagoras!
Pythagoras!
The City of Angels, what it was like following Pythagoras. In order to prove yourself worthy of a spot in the Nerd Fest, you had to be silent for 5 years, which both proved your devotion and helped the group stay out of the spotlight around you. You're also supposed to abstain from sex, or at least try your hardest to. Pythagoras knew this was a tough ask, so he told his followers to save all their adding of parts for the winter time and to subtract lovemaking from the summer months. Well, that's sensible, man.
What's wrong with that?
Pythagoras loved all things three-sided. He may have been one of the first people to choose not to eat meat for morality's sake, but don't get too excited. Pythagoras and his followers still sacrificed oxen. Whenever they proved a new mathematical formula, they'd sacrifice an oxen.
Makes sense.
Yeah, I guess that's a good time to do it. He had a strong relationship with the fava bean. He believed you should never eat fava beans because they give you gas, and expelling gas took away the breath of life. This is making sense to me, man. I'm getting converted like right here. At the same time, he claimed fava beans contained the soul of the dead. So maybe he believed you shouldn't eat beans because you'd fart ghosts. This is awesome. They're gonna kill ox and fart ghosts. No sex, but you can have it. Like just winter time, winter sex.
Yeah, this is great.
Yeah,
that's great.
The only problem is you have to do math. That's
boo. That can't pop.
That's what killed it.
Did you guys try watching Seinfeld's new show at all, Unfrosted?
No, reviews, like I don't know what to make of it. Like, but most reviews, even from like sources that aren't gonna just be mad that because of who he is, are saying that it's crap. It's disappointingly unfunny.
I liked it.
Was it good?
I've never been able to get into Seinfeld.
Well, it's totally Seinfeldian, and that's the reason I liked it, because it's just like, well, I mean, he has Kyle Dunnigan's in it.
What channel is it on?
It's on the Netflix. But
I don't have Flex.
What I think it was is like it was so Seinfeldian, and some people are mad at him because it's like there's so much going on in the world. How could you just joke about some stupid freaking Pop-Tart? But I love that it was that. It's like it's just complete escapism. Let's muse and joke on the Pop-Tart. I thought it was perfectly fine and funny.
Huh. I want to see it now.
Yeah, I thought it was fine.
I didn't.
I wasn't like crack up laughing, but it had like all sorts of just kind of funny puns, or funny to imagine like that's the way it went down. Kind of like a little bit like Anchorman. Like would there really be like these Anchorman societies that would turn into gangs against each other? Well, this kind of turned the serial gangs into gangs against each other. I mean, it was fine. It was all right, I thought.
Interesting.
And I like anybody who does this. Like I've joked, because I write songs nowadays, and I'll purposely make them not political, and that's a political statement. Like that's my political statement is I refuse to put anything political in this at all, and because that's a political statement nowadays, just like having no tattoos, the new tattoo. And I appreciate that Jerry Seinfeld, there's not a lick of a sense of politics at all in there anywhere. Let's go to Jared's TikTok.
Oh,
something went wrong.
People got mad at me for that one.
Really? Why?
I don't usually get very many comments on TikToks. I don't make them very often, but
So you
I
got
a
comments
couple-
on this?
Yeah, I got a bunch that were like,
Preserving my
you.
childhood innocence is an act of preserving white supremacy. Was a HuffPost article this week, and so Jared put that up. Edward Norton from what's the name of that movie again?
American History X.
American History X. It's so funny.
I'm just like, okay, that's what I mean by like when people call you like when I'm like I have preferences of just females and they call me transphobic, I say okay. When I say like I don't want a dude in wearing clothes that turns him on to read propaganda to my kid in a public library, and they say you're a bigot, I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
I really don't care.
Comments. You got the right doesn't understand the concept because to them the only innocence is sexual innocence. The left means the ignorance of history and real atrocities committed and then whitewash them from history. What is he talking about? What? No.
Yeah, what?
No, that's not anything going on there. White supremacy, the only belief system with 0 wins in the modern era. Didn't you losers learn your lessons in Rhodesia? You guys are going to give them the wins if you're saying preserving childhood.
No, I know you've got that's the problem. You've got the general public and the white supremacists. You're giving them more in common now, because yeah, the white supremacists are gonna agree with me probably that that you shouldn't be reading sexy propaganda to children in outfits that turn you on, and so we're on the same team in that regard. I don't like them because they're racist and they're assholes, but you're making unlikely bedfellows of a lot of people. It's also wild. You don't realize how long this shit has been going on and how long you've been in the trenches with this nonsense. I looked up that article. It's from 2016.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah, that seems like a little bit early to be that blatant about it on Huffington
I know.
Post, but they were that blatant about it all along. It just seemed like they were like a little bit more touchy with the words back then. Like they might have said something about plays into the destructive ideas around white hegemony, or something like that. Something to disguise it.
Yeah. Where is? Oh, we're almost at 3 hours.
Yeah, I know. I mean, there's other little diddlies I could pull up, but did you guys diddlies? Did you guys watch anything about that stalking show on Netflix, the baby reindeer?
Oh, the baby alligator. Yeah, no.
I've heard people talking about it, but yeah, I never watched it. Because again, I don't have Netflix anymore.
Listen to this crap. And I thought it was so weird. The show dead seriously claims this
white dude get Netflix to let him make a whole series.
That's how he was molested by dudes.
But that doesn't come out
like
till
trans people.
but the third episode, it's only until the third episode where you're like, oh, he got raped by this guy and it made him gay. Like literally the third episode, he goes, this guy raped me and then I guess I'm gay now.
Yeah. That seriously happens. Like I'm watching the show and I'm like, he starts getting raped by some producer who wants to produce him as a comic, and he's just a terrible comic. And the guy starts raping him, and then after he gets raped, he says, it's like I went through a second puberty and now I'm gay.
Oh,
and
Jesus.
Dead serious.
That's wild.
Like, have you in the midst of this whole show talking about supposedly stalking, because you'd be like, what these guys are musing about is how would there be a show on Netflix nowadays about a fat woman crazily stalking a normal white guy? No way would they greenlight that, right?
Yeah,
and
I know.
Then you find out in the third episode that he got raped gay, I guess.
Raped gay.
Because that's how that works. I don't know what the hell that show was.
Have you watched any of the... Sorry, go on. I'm going to change.
No, that's it with that one. But you're like, that show's like crazy popular right now. And I don't know how they get around the premise that the whole entire thing is like you can change your sexuality from doing some drugs and getting a little raped. You go through second puberty and stuff like that. Like, how is this on a show? But in the midst of all that, the Tom Brady roast that thing, like I feel like that thing in a weird way kind of undid, like a lot of people are Dave and quarterback Black on Real World were like, it seemed like that's the time, the moment in the sand that says, okay, we're not doing this woke shit anymore. It's fine to tell terrible, horrible jokes again now. If this can be on Netflix, because those jokes were nasty all the way through it. It was rough. Yeah.
Damn it! I almost want to get Netflix now because of all this. Like I've been avoiding Netflix out of principle because they pissed me off. Because like I was paying $20 a month. I'm like, I don't watch this shit. So then I canceled it. Like, and I'd been paying them $20 a month for like over a year when I had barely even used Netflix. Then I canceled it, and they sent me this email. They're like, $6.99 a month. And I'm like, well, no, not anymore. Like, if you just
I
kept
cancel
charging
and
me
add
$12
things.
a month,
I cancel and add all the time the different channels and stuff because like they all kind of like wear out and then they get like a refreshed amount like every 3, 4, 5 months. So it's kind of like worth stopping and starting each one of them like one at a time or something.
Yeah, no, that just kind of makes sense.
My Hulu's kind of out, and although I still was planning on keeping watching King of the Hill all the way through, but I don't know. I'll probably run out of Netflix stuff and like before a month's up. I'll probably just get like one good month out of it, and I haven't had it in like 6 months. But
That's
I like
what I
the
did too.
Seinfeld.
I bought a month for I bought a month of HBO just so I could watch home movies.
That's worth it.
There's that.
Have you watched any of the Chad Daybell trial?
No.
So
Tell us about that.
I wish
Jared's degenerate trial review.
So did I tell you that John Dehlin was asked by John Pryor, the defense attorney,
I'd
to
heard.
be an expert witness?
Yeah.
I wish we lived in the universe where that happened because fuck, that would have been great to listen to John Dehlin go like have that sort of that mind fuck on the stand of okay, do I condone a child murderer by throwing the Mormon Church under the bus and blaming the Mormon Church on his actions, or do I be honest and give the Mormon Church the praise it's due and say that no, they're not responsible for the things that he did. But anyway, that's just part of it. So this was where my my name came from on this. The storm cometh. They were.
It was one of the. What's that book? Visions of Glory.
Visions of Glory.
Have you heard? It's not that.
No, it's not. It was they had to read a bunch of texts from between Lori Vallow and Chad Daybell, and they if you ever want to hear some like corny sounding sexting, then read through those transcripts because it's like sexting but like biblical.
Oh no!
And
biblical sexting?
Yeah, it's biblical. It's like one of them. He said, "I cannot await the moment where I lie in your arms, and I desire that it will result in nakedness." It was just cheesy shit like that. Anyway, they're asking this woman on the stand. They're like, "So she keeps referring to the storm in here. What is that? What is she referring to?" And the lady kind of goes, Chad's penis. Their nickname for Chad Daybell's penis was the Storm. And anyway,
that's glorious.
That trial got a little bit turned on its head just today because the judge noticed that they have the death date for one of the kids wrong. And so now they're going to have to see if they have to retry it or whatever. It's a whole mess.
Just for a date?
So
you can't say there's a typo on a date.
So it's the only way that would be a problem is if the date is part of the defense, right? So because if they got the death date wrong and it turns out like he was in, I don't know, like he was in New Zealand during the actual date, then yeah, that would be a problem. But my guess is that the judge will just be like, just correct the error. Yeah, but that's only with one kid, right? He's still on the hook for the murder of another kid and for his wife. So I
You're not
don't-
getting away that easy, Daybell.
No, it is actually he's actually facing the death penalty. I don't know if they'll charge him with that or not. It's
So Reese
if he
was
weren't
saying
Mormon, none of this would have happened.
Reese was saying that he hears it's pretty common that people have a trauma response for the sexual assault thing, and something that I pointed out to these guys like a little while back is Josh Slocum on Disaffected had this little bit of stuff where he, as a gay person, is coming out and saying along with another man that they believe that trauma in childhood like that is a far bigger culprit than most gay people want to believe in. And well, here it is.
In many other places because it is a forbidden conversation. We are joined by Joseph Chambra, who is a writer, a podcaster, a blogger, a Catholic. And I noticed Joseph's work a few years ago. This will be the first time we've spoken to each other, but he sees a connection between childhood treatment and specifically childhood abuse and the eventual outcome of homosexuality, which is a topic that I'm interested in. And I think a lot of you are, although it is, again, forbidden. Joseph, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Joshua. Let me say ex-Catholic.
Ex-Catholic, thank you. You may have to correct me on several things since I don't know you well yet. So let me know anything I get wrong.
Okay.
Let's start where we usually start. Could you give us a little bit of your background, who you are as a person personally and professionally, that and how that segue into how you became interested in looking at this question?
Sure. I was born and raised here in San Francisco, California. I was born in 1969, so during the flower power generation. And then I came out in 1988, which was a pretty bad year to come out. That was the height of the AIDS crisis. And then I lived out and proud here in LA for throughout the 1990s. And then I had a conversion experience in 1999 and went back to the Roman Catholic Church, although I had been abused as a boy in the church by a priest. And then stayed within the church for about 20 years. Not by any design or will on my own. I did become kind of an advocate for survivors and also, strangely enough, for those who experience same-sex attraction and are Catholic. So I try to advocate for those people.
Okay, so what we'll hold off on that. What got you interested in looking at the connection between childhood maltreatment? And I know that I've read several of your blog posts, and I know that you see a strong connection between childhood sexual abuse and homosexuality. I see that too, but I think I also see some connection between non-sexual child abuse and distorted forms of sexuality, whether or not one wants to call homosexuality that.
Anyway, he's got a whole extended thing on all that.
Yeah, no, I saw that, and I guess that was just the teaser. I don't know.
They had
I'd
like
be
an
curious to hear
extra
that.
episode on it, which I haven't watched yet. But
Yeah, I'm curious to see that idea fleshed out some more. Because it's interesting, but
it might. I don't know. It's possible that could yield way to some type of a middle ground to where the being gay as a sin, people could have a little bit more, sympathy on the subject of it's maybe you're not born this way, but I don't think that you chose it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, the Born This Way thing we've mentioned before. That there's that NPR Radiolab thing where they're going hard against the concept of Born This Way, and obviously that show on Netflix opened up the can of worms pretty wide open, saying like, hey, maybe a trauma response can cause gayness or something like that. I mean, there's no way to not interpret it that way if that whole show's about that. I don't know if anybody's written any articles that it's problematic. Baby reindeer becomes gay.
Did you so I think I ranted about
complicated
Animaniacs.
sexuality of baby reindeer.
Did I rant about Animaniacs last week?
Here's from The Guardian. The baby reindeer strikes a painful chord for gay and bi men, and I know why. Grooming and rape are common. From The Guardian. What about that?
So my kid likes watching Animaniacs, and I've been watching it through with him, and I've heard a lot of people say, because they rebooted it like 2 years ago, and
Oh.
I've heard some people I think have mentioned that it's a little bit woke now, which would be kind of a bummer, because man, a lot of these episodes that I'm finding are like really based. Like they had this whole thing where they went to New York and they wanted a place to live, and they just lived with the Friends group, and they just made fun of Friends, like the TV show, and how they never do anything. They made fun of I don't remember the brunette's name in Friends, but about how I guess she used to have a weight problem, and Dot like shoves cake in her face and immediately makes her obese.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Like-
That was a thing in Friends. Friends
Yeah,
also
yeah.
was based in that. Like they just made fun of her that she used to be fat and then she isn't anymore.
But there was this great episode where there's this squirrel character. She's old and she's angry, and she always like solves problems with violence, like cartoonish, violence with a big mallet or whatever. And she's got her nephew living with her, and her nephew comes home and tells her, like, I've got at school there's a bully, he's picking on me. She's like, well, kick his ass. And he's like, well, my anti-aggression counselor has told me that my bully is actually just reaching out for attention. So if I ignore him, then he will stop bullying me. And then he tries that, and then he gets tied into a pretzel. And then he says, okay, well, now my anti-aggression counselor is telling me that he just wants to be friends. So I'll offer him a compromise. And she's doing all of these things that just don't work and don't work and don't work. And then eventually the aunt convinces him, no, you just got to kick his ass. And eventually he kicks his ass, and that works. It was one of the funniest things ever, because I'm like, this feels based to me, that like you're telling your kid, like, look, you try to not be violent, but if somebody's beating you up, you can beat them up back. And and they were really shitting on therapy in that episode. It was wild.
Huh, that's interesting. I'm surprised.
That was in the reboot?
No, that was in
reboot?
the original. I haven't
original.
watched the reboot yet. I want to get through a lot of the
I'm
original.
worried about a reboot with that, and I'm also worried about a reboot that's coming out for Space or Ram or what
Space-orama?
Yeah, they're rebooting that. Baby Reindeer's depiction of grooming and rape is therefore as significant as unflinching. Wait, here it is. When I first read the scene in the original script, I knew it would strike a painful chord with game by men. I've lost count of the number of queer men in my life who've shared harrowing stories of being groomed or sexually assaulted. The 2020 report, survivors revealed that nearly half, 45% of game by men have experienced sexual assault. More than 1 in 4 have experienced it while in a relationship.
Damn.
But I thought that minorities had empathy. How are all these gay men rapists when they're full of so much empathy from being oppressed by society?
You want me to tell you what it is? It's any act of gay sex really sort of hits against their internalized homophobia, and they take it out. It's still the fault of the cis hetero white straight patriarchy, obviously.
That makes sense. It would have to be.
What you have to do, Flip, and then what you didn't do right there is you have to start with that conclusion. And once you start with that conclusion,
that's right. Then it makes sense.
I want to play that for every ex-Mormon out there who I talk to about the patriarchy, and who everything I say, even shit that goes wrong against men, says, yeah, it's the patriarchy. I want to play them that clip of that apologist who says, I start with the premise that the book of Abraham is true and was translated by God. And then I work from there, because they make fun of that relentlessly, as they should. That's it.
It was on Kara's last episode.
I know.
Again.
Yeah. So you start with the premise that patriarchy had to have done this. It doesn't matter what it was. It doesn't matter if I point out something that is actually systemically against males. Like if any red pill dude points out the family court system, which they have a point, the family court system does fuck over men. You call that patriarchy. Yeah, patriarchy hurts everyone. Okay, so this is my fault too.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Stop hitting yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think that about wraps it
Easter
up.
McCrew, what about clownfish? Clownfish can change sex. Human beings aren't clownfish. You're a bigot. You're a clown in an outfit and that clown wig, an announcement. I know you doubt this. Human beings aren't clownfish.
God, that's amazing.
That's great stuff.
Yeah, Milstein, Troy Levittson. I don't got much else unless there's something else you guys wanted to hit on. We've
No.
now discussed the Pythagorean cult, how to turn gay. What else we hit on?
If you play one Assassin's Creed game, I would suggest Black Flag. Although it does, most of the games have a modern day story. And the modern day story in the first couple were getting a little bit better and a little bit better and a little bit better. And then Black Flag has the worst one. Oh my God.
I forgot about Mother's Day.
Mother's Day. I can't tell you how many of these I saw where it's just women complaining about Mother's Day. Like, this guy made her, that looks good. And it's not my favorite. So I know this is going to be a terrible Mother's Day. Like, imagine me doing that. Like, Morgan makes me a steak on Father's Day and brings it to me. I'm like,
that's not my favorite.
I like spaghetti. She knows this. She likes steak.
She cooked it medium instead of medium rare, and I know that means she doesn't appreciate me. She did this for her, not for me. I would be on Oprah.
Here's me getting clicks on Facebook and Twitter for it. I mean, obviously, didn't he do something for her Mother's Day because she got some Twitter attention that she would rather way more Twitter attention than pancakes over that waffle? So you're welcome, bitch.
No, I think of that Aiden. I think of that Aiden Paladin video all the time where she talks about. I think it's Amber Heard. No, she's talking about. I can't remember her name. The blue whatever lady, and
Eliza Blue.
Eliza Blue, yeah, and she mentions the whole the victim narrative and the hero narrative, and like people respond very well to a hero, they respond even better to a victim. And if you can channel both of those things, then that's awesome. So if you can, there's a way that you can have your cake and eat it too. Yeah, it's
double Mario power up.
I'm getting waffles and I'm also getting clicks. I'm taking both of them. I'm being praised and also being a victim.
Yeah, no, you can have your special treatment that only women get and be a victim of the patriarchy all at the same time.
Amazing waffles in bed was the victim story of the day, ladies.
I know. Imagine that. Imagine.
Oh, what a world.
One of Morgan's first gifts to me was like a photo album of our wedding, and like she put like a lot of work into it, and I feel like that's what that would have been like. Because if it were me, I wouldn't have bought a photo album. It's not really a me thing, but it's our wedding and it's an important thing, and so I can either be bummed out that like, oh, she could have got me a thing that I wanted more or most, or I can be like, thank you for putting a lot of work into this. People don't love their spouses. That's what I'm saying. People fucking hate their spouses more than anything.
Yeah, that's true. That was the case in my parents' house. That was the thing. Yeah, no, my mom was complaining that my dad's first ever Christmas gift was a beer stein for his collection, which was true. It was a shitty gift from my dad to do that, but
yeah. Well, so you'll have these moments.
My mom never let it go.
I've noticed you'll have these moments where you have the stupidest thought in the world, and you kind of have to check yourself on that because one of taking the trash out, right? That's like my responsibility. We have different responsibilities. And I remember driving home on a Monday night, and it was trash night is Monday night. And I drive home and I see what I think is our trash can sitting on the curb. And I'm like, oh, Morgan must have taken out the trash for me. That was nice of her. And then I get a little bit closer and I see, no, that's the neighbors and ours isn't out there. And my first thought was, of course she fucking didn't take out the trash for me. And then I had to start laughing at myself because, like, hold on a minute. What are you talking about, man? Like, she doesn't, that's not her job. It's that great Louis C.K. quote, like, how soon does the world owe you something that you didn't know existed 5 seconds ago?
Yeah.
Yeah.
This was going viral on X just yesterday. Matt Walsh is like, I could do Matt Walsh's job. I see the videos before he comments on them, but
I don't do my husband's laundry. And a lot of people are saying, whoa, 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 those are small acts of kindness. Why wouldn't you want to do that for your partner? But here's the thing. Small acts of kindness that are mostly domestic labor just add up to work at the end of the day. So here's a list of things that I don't do for my husband. You all know I don't do his laundry. He can do that himself. I do my laundry and we do the kids' laundry, but he does his own. I don't cook dinner. He cooks dinner every single night. I do breakfast and lunch for us and our kids. I don't pack him a lunch. If he's hungry, he'll figure out what he's going to eat for lunch the same way that I do. I don't make his doctor's appointments because guess what? He's not making mine. Would it be kind of me to do that? For sure. Is it my job? Absolutely not. I want him to be healthy, but he's a grown-ass man and he can book his own appointments, right? There's a lot of things that I don't do for my husband. I don't schedule his haircuts. I don't pack his clothes for vacation. Right? I don't do those things. I don't buy him new underwear when it's got holes in it. All of those are things that he's a grown man and he can do himself. Can I do small acts of kindness for him? Of course I can.
Yeah, you don't have to do this shit for him, but like, why are you saying this with ire? Like,
yeah,
she's saying
that's exactly it. Like coming on TikTok and like making something like this.
Yeah,
it just
that's one thing.
goes
Yeah.
to what you're saying. It sounds like you don't like your husband at all.
No, I know. If I came home
Yeah.
and Morgan was like, I didn't cook dinner for you because I don't have to, I'd be like, well, yeah, you don't have to. Why are you saying this?
Yeah, like why are you mad?
Yeah. Anyway,
Alrighty.
stuff will get fixed by next week.
Yeah, there will be nothing to talk about.
There
next
won't be
week.
any stupid next week.
Not one drop.
Yep. We fixed it.
Alrighty.
Alrighty.
We'll see
Thanks
you.
for hanging out, everybody.
I'll see you later.
Hasta la pasta. See you, everybody.